Patriots officially introduced Mike Vrabel as their new head coach yesterday at Gillette Stadium. Vrabel told the media he wasn't sure his team could take advantage of bad football at this point, so that was going to be their first goal. Off the field, the question was, how would he coexist with the team's current VP of Player Personnel, Elliott Wolf?
Well, I think the vision that him and I both have and the communication and allowing him to find us great players and then for us to come to an agreement about how we add them, I think is something that will be critical.
Vrabel said yesterday morning nothing had been finalized yet for his new coaching staff or in the front office, but our own Bert Breer quickly reported yesterday Vrabel's interim GM in Tennessee, Ryan Cowden, is indeed joining the Patriots as Wolf's second in command. The Dallas Cowboys announced yesterday head coach Mike McCarthy won't be back next season. He will reportedly meet with Chicago tomorrow. As for Jerry Jones, ESPN and others are reporting he spoke to Colorado Buffalo's head coach Deion Sanders about his new vacancy yesterday. The LA Rams sacked Sam Darnold 9 times. They beat Minnesota 27-9 in Arizona last night. They'll visit Philadelphia in the divisional round of the playoffs on Sunday. And the Bruins had last night off. They faced Tampa Bay for the second time in a week this evening at TD Garden. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Village Automotive. Village Auto is looking for A technicians to join their team. It's time to put your skills to work where they're truly valued. Visit villageautomotive.com/careers to grow your career and your paycheck today. That's villageautomotive.com/careers. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 6:30.
New England plays here.
Ball down the right side, there's a separation. Yeah. Touchdown pass. Yes. Perfect dive from Drake May.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Toucher
Fred Toucher on Instagram. Follow and see dog humping videos.
and Hardy
I'm going to withhold sex.
on 98.5.
Hello.
Hey there.
Yo.
Can we use this for the radio?
What? Let me hear you say, oh. Na 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 na.
Crush me, mommy.
Just not enough booty to go around?
Say my name.
I'm a robot.
I'm the son of the post. I'll chase you around a little bit.
Wow.
Holy smokes. Yeah.
Instagram.
I want to dip it in, boy.
Toucher and Hardy
Watch Daddy and Uncle Freddie.
Knocking back some fun.
Having some fun.
on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Let's go.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are Toucher and Hardy, Town Fair Tire Studios. You can watch us on YouTube. Search 98.5 The Sports Hub on YouTube and then subscribe. That would be in your best interest. You can... No, did I say FanDuel Sports? We're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. 617-779-0985. You know, I don't watch a great deal of TV, but I do watch sitcoms. Those are still the things that I watch. Adam, did you see the Abbott Elementary Always Sunny
No,
crossover?
I wasn't aware that it had aired yet. I'm interested in watching it, though.
It's good.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's good.
What is it on? Is it on Hulu?
It is on Hulu.
Okay.
It is on Hulu. I'm not a huge Abbott Elementary fan. I don't think it's a bad show, but I don't. But it was so hyped that I can't watch it. You know how that is when everyone's insisting upon something. Some time needs to pass.
It becomes tiresome. Yes.
It becomes tiresome.
It's like Wicked, you know. I'm sure it's the same vibe, same audience.
Oh yeah.
There's just too much hype right now.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to see a 2-hour and 40-minute musical, but I might have bought tickets. I told you that Wicked 3 times and never gone.
Is that how long Wicked is?
2 hours and 40
Oh
minutes.
my God!
Yeah, Hardy told me that
Who would sit through that? That's insane.
25 million people
lot of
sat
people.
through it.
Tons of people.
Everybody.
My daughter didn't like it. She saw it with her mom, and she didn't like it. I told you I bought tickets. I bought tickets to it 3 times, and by the grace of God, I never went. One time, I just went to Dedham to see it, and there was nowhere to park, so I just left. That's
Well,
how.
the thing with the Wicked thing too is it's the movie version of a musical, and the musical itself is like a musical length. It's
2.5 hours long, maybe.
With an intermission.
Right.
Yes.
This movie
That's a good point,
is
John.
half of the story, to my understanding.
Yes, they're coming out with another one.
Oh, good.
So they're doing a 5-hour movie version of what is only a 2.5 hour musical?
There's a
But it's a
cliffhanger.
flight of fancy.
It's a cliffhanger.
It's a flight of fancy. But there is this show called Universal Basic Guys. Have you seen it?
No.
I have not.
It's set in like suburban Philadelphia. It's a cartoon, and this guy and his brother get fired from a hot dog factory, and they get on Universal Basic Care,
Sure.
which is $30,000 a year, and it's their foible. It's funny.
I'm making a note right now.
But there's an episode where he's a viral sensation called the Cupcake Guy. And he ends up he gets 2 million hits, over 2 million hits on this thing. And then he starts reading the comments and he sees that people are insulting him. So he goes to a media advisor and he goes, I want to get everyone to watch me. No one to say anything bad about me. And he's got this like a stepson, and the stepson's like, you can't read the comments, and he's like, sure I can, these are my people. So that was, and then my daughter turned it off halfway through
To
because
be
she
new to
wanted
the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when my daughter was like first old enough to like go on and care and read about things, she was like appalled at some of the things that were being said about me, and she was like really sad about it. She's like, there's people they just don't like you.
It's a rude awakening for the children.
Yeah.
You know what? My kids are always like, and if they see me looking at the internet, which they do, especially my daughter is very curious with what I'm doing on the phone. She's very curious. It's very hard for me to have a text conversation with my daughter around. They both were like, why would you look at that? Like, they both are saying they are, for whatever reason, maybe the only part of their lives where they're emotionally mature enough where they're like, why would you look at that? These people are psychos.
Yeah.
You know, people on the internet are psychos, which is not true. I mean, it's 99% not true.
It brings out the worst in people because there's that extra. I mean, we're all broadcasters. We all started at a time where people would call you on the phone and tell you to F off if they didn't like what you played or said. And then when they could email you, they'd email you and tell you to F off. And then more so because there's like another layer of removal there. There's another layer of intimacy removed. And now social media is yet another layer. So people feel like they can tell you to go kill yourself now.
But you know what? I would say that it's not as bad as it was by a long shot, because there's times where I know it's not going to.
As it was when? Like 10, 15 years ago?
Or even 5 years ago. I mean, I'm not on Twitter anymore because of my inability to handle it.
Yeah.
Twitter, I don't have a Twitter account. Twitter, I'm sure, is still Twitter.
Oh,
that's just the way.
It's a disaster.
Yeah. It's like a whole disaster.
But at least it was funny 15 years ago and a disaster. Now it's just a complete disaster, and it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, I don't like no one. I don't think anyone under the age of like 20 is on Twitter anyway. Like, so I don't. It's not a big deal. But I don't think Instagram's that bad, and also email's not that bad. And I actually, if I get hate email, it doesn't bother me because at least they took the time to email me, you know, and it's not just a sentence responding to something going, you suck. So the internet doesn't bother me nearly as much as it did. But then also I told you that seeing how ignored radio is universally, that any conversation about you on the radio, good or bad, is a complete positive.
Agreed.
Because the worst thing would be no one talking about you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would think that this station is one of the very few that it has a dialogue going in the city about it on a consistent basis, and rumors and what have you. So, you know, how many radio stations does the newspaper of record write about in the city that they're in?
I can't think of another other than this one. off the top of my head.
WIP. with all the stuff that's going on over there.
Yeah.
They get written about, but I don't know for how long because all the OG guys are gone.
Yeah, but it used to be not just IP, but the competition on our sister station used to get a lot of press as well for wrong reasons, but still getting press.
No, but that was when radio was more important. Like EEI. Yeah, I knew about EEI. I knew about the Metco Gorilla thing.
Oh.
I knew about the Metco Gorilla thing before I came here, and boy, did I know about it when I got here.
Oh yeah,
because our first 5 meetings were about don't do the Metco Gorilla thing.
Don't do that joke.
Well, they really just don't do anything based on race, which was funny because coming from Atlanta, our audience was 60% black.
Mm-hmm.
We did a tremendous amount of race stuff. It was also a different time.
No.
But isn't it interesting that the more ethnic a town, because we had non-ethnic bonuses. That's how many African Americans, black people, were in Atlanta. But we were able to. It wasn't a big deal if you talked about race and stuff like that because black people were quite literally the majority. So it wasn't that bad. And then as soon as I got to Boston, where it's the polar opposite, if not way more on the other side, all we did was get conversations about how not to talk about race and not to do all this stuff.
And damn it, you succeeded. You took their advice and you succeeded. Good for you.
I mean, I have to hold my tongue very many times.
You were in one of those. I don't know. They probably split them up. We probably had to have like multiple sessions, and this is probably back during BCN. This wasn't even.
This was BCN. I know what you're talking about.
The woman who came in and told us essentially 2 things: don't do anything offensive, and if you do, the company will not back you
Yes.
up. We will not.
That was the messaging.
Yeah,
Spread
we
out
will
over a
not
2-hour
support you.
session, but still.
And I like most of these like group meetings, my number one goal is just to get out of there. Have this take as short amount of time as possible.
So how
But
many
I couldn't
questions
hold-
were asked at the end?
I couldn't hold my
there?
tongue. I'm like, what do you mean offensive? She's like, well, you're trying to do like, comedy. Just make sure the comedy isn't offensive. And and then I start getting like into this philosophical argument with this lawyer from
so you were that
CBS. So
guy.
like, the comedy is supposed to offend your sensibilities. Even a pun is supposed to offend you, like on an intelligent level. It's like so there are varying degrees of what is going to offend you, and then it sounded like a frickin' Good Morning Vietnam. Like, oh, you want us to do slapstick? You want us to do like Marx Brothers stuff? Pratfalls on the radio? What is it that you want?
Well, they don't want to define anything because then once they've defined it, you can find ways to get around it, and they don't like that at all.
But that
Hold
didn't
them
matter
accountable.
because that was part 2 of the whole conversation. If you get in trouble, we will not support you.
Well, remember they showed the Tom and Jerry where they had the black maid with that you could only see her legs,
Yes.
and they said don't do this. And my point was, well, when they did that, that was happening. People had black maids.
Right.
It was a reflection of
It was a
society
reflection
at the
of
time. Yeah.
society at the time. And they're not making fun of they weren't even.
That wasn't a joke.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it wasn't even. She wasn't the butt of the joke. It wasn't. It was just a reflection of people had black maids.
Right.
So I don't understand what the deal was. Anthony Jeselnik said the best thing about it is he's like, everyone doesn't want to get canceled. They don't want to get canceled. They have this big deal about being canceled. But if you want to be a dangerous comic, there has to be a threat of you getting in trouble. If there's no threat of you getting in trouble, you can just say whatever you want to say, then it's not dangerous.
Right.
So the whole point of comedy is skirting that line and being funny enough where it gets accepted, because his thing is everyone's whining about everyone's getting canceled. And this is for stand-ups, not radio, where if you lose your job, it's very difficult. But because if you're a stand-up, the idea of getting canceled is interesting because your core audience isn't going away. You can still make a living. I mean, you're employed by yourself, unless the comedy clubs won't book you. And even then, you could probably work around it. And I'm talking about getting canceled for something you say, not like a Louis C.K. who's playing the Garden again. But
I was going
like,
to say there's levels to that too, Fred. Like it was, what was it? Chappelle a couple years ago was, whining and crying about being canceled. It's like, dude, you're a multimillionaire, and anytime you want, you can pick up the phone and do a Netflix special and make another $5 million. You're uncancelable.
Yeah, the thing about Chappelle is he was just angry that people didn't like what he said.
Right. Which is another weird thing about comedy, like that style of comedy. Like, well, you not only do I get to say anything I want, but you have to like it. It's like, nah, that's not how that works.
Because Chappelle was never canceled. I mean, like you said,
because he's uncancelable.
Right, exactly. He's big enough where he's uncancelable, and just people didn't like what he said about trans people and whatever. I mean, that's not canceled. They just didn't like what you said. I mean, he still has a core audience of worst case scenario, 10 million people in the United States. Even though the people I've seen that have, and I'm obviously, as everyone is, Chappelle, I was a big fan of Dave Chappelle. Apparently, he ceased to be doing comedy. Have you heard that? Like,
No.
He played in Boston recently, and there was a real lack of comedy in the show. It was more just complaining.
Yes, complaining and punching down. Which again, like, what?
I don't want to get in the punching down thing, but because that's slippery to me.
Sure, but the complaining we can agree on though.
It was just complaining, because the whole thing to most people in the thing about comedy is that if you can take, like Hardy just said, if you can take something that's a taboo and you can turn it around and make it funny, then that's kind of the gift of comedy. Unless you're Jerry Seinfeld and you're doing jokes, or Brian Regan, there's a million ways to be a good comic. But if you're going to do cultural stuff, the whole trick of it is to manipulate it in a way where you're making people think about it. They know you shouldn't be saying it, but it's so clever and there's such a turn to it that they can't help but laugh. That's the gift. Because Jeselnik is considered a very offensive comedian, but he's not under the impression that he shouldn't be canceled. He knows that that's a tightrope that he's walking at all times.
Yeah, but Jeselnik he's got a weird, and he's been cultivating this, I think, for years now. Like, you almost know going in now, like he is going to say the most horrific, outrageous things as almost a dare. To see, like,
I love it.
Oh, I do too. But in the way
he also has balls, because he's the only guy that goes after all those Rogan comedians.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I've seen a little bit of that.
And he goes
in his interviews on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah. And I like Shane Gillis a lot, but it's funny because he's like, Shane Gillis fans are the worst because they think that Shane Gillis is the only comedian in the world, and that if you like Shane Gillis, you can't like anyone else. He's like, they're like old Bill Burr fans. And I like Shane Gillis and I like Bill Burr, but I just like that he has the balls to say it, because everyone else is running around kissing Rogan's ass, because if they can get on his podcast, it's going to make him some money. Bert Kreischer, the 5th highest grossing comedian last year, and Bert Kreischer is unequivocally, without question, not funny.
He's bad. So you're saying Shane Gillis fans are Tool fans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right? Yeah. Like, I Tool, they're my favorite band. I don't like any other bands, and I'm not allowed to like any other bands because I'm a Tool fan.
And then Maynard sits there and likes it.
Yes.
It
tells you you're an idiot.
Right.
And you lap it up.
I do think Shane Gillis is really funny, but I do like the balls on calling him out, because you're just opening yourself up to so much crap. Like, if you call out any of those Rogan comedians, you're alienating the whole Rogan sphere, which is controlling comedy right now. It'd be like going after Carson in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And then you're just saying you don't care at all about the internet, which I very much respect. He's just like, screw it. I don't care. The guy he does his podcast with is an NFL Network guy, too. They were friends in high school. It's Rosenthal and Jeselnik is the podcast.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Have you listened to it? Is it a listenable
as a podcast? No, I'm not going to listen to it as a podcast.
Okay, all right.
It comes up as an algorithm. I'm not listening to any podcast that is. I would listen to that before, because I don't believe it's a long form interview podcast. I will never listen to a long form interview podcast again, Never. When James Brolin's on 75 different interviews, I'm over it. And James Brolin's fine, but he doesn't deserve 75 2-hour interviews to promote a book. That is unnecessary and boring and no good for anybody because it's just eating your own audience. I mean, if you have 200 2-hour interviews with Josh Brolin, you're just eating into it. No one's going to listen to all of them, and no one's going to listen to more than one of them. So now there's 200 options, and you're cutting your audience by 200% or 199%. All right, very good. Last night there was a playoff game that wasn't very good.
Oh, no.
No.
Not a good game at all.
No.
Poor Sammy. Well, poor offensive line for the...
Sammy's still cutting into his dollar figures for next year.
Yeah, and I'm not positive. I used to think that they might trade McCarthy. That's not happening
All
anymore.
the sacks were on the offensive line.
No, he holds the ball a long time.
Yeah.
Well, not to get real quick. It's just Aaron Glenn deserves a lot of credit because he came up with
Sure.
the exact way how to defend that team. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Here goes Hardy.
Toucher and Hardy.
I no longer love things.
Let's go. Let's ride.
98.5.
Like, let's roll the dice.
The Sports Hub.
Did you catch a game last night?
Hey, we are Toucher and Hardy. What happened last night is brought to you by Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, where your hair doesn't have to be a game of what happened. What happened? So change your lettuce and change your life with Dr. Matthew Lepresti at 1-800-GET-HAIR. Go ahead, Hardy.
Vikings and Rams playing last night. Final of the wild card games moved to Arizona due to the fires still burning in Los Angeles. So technically a Rams home game. A lot of Rams fans there, but according to reports, maybe a smidge more Vikings fans in attendance at this game in Arizona. And boy, did they get to see a show.
From a loaded set with Nakua the only receiver. They'll play fake. Boot out to the left side. Matthew flips his hips. Fires middle. Alone at the goal line. His tailback, Kyron Williams. Touchdown, L.A.
Took them about 7 minutes to march down the field and score first, and the Rams would jump out to an early lead, and there's your ball game.
So the narrative, this is pretty funny. So the narrative going into the game, I heard from a lot of national people was this is too disruptive to Los Angeles because of the wildfires. You know, the Arizona Cardinals flew them out. They were very nice. They let them use their plane and everything. They flew out the families and the pets and everything out to Arizona. But it was going to be too much. There's too much on their minds. They're not going to be able to play. Then this morning, because I was listening to the game a little bit on the radio last night, this morning that radio station was saying it's the NFL network station, the NFL station. They were saying how Los Angeles was ultra motivated by the wildfires, and they were not going to lose that game. And now that they're going to Philadelphia, it's going to be much more difficult for them to maintain that kind of passion that they had. Which, talking 20 hours a week can, conceptually about sports, but not always. I was telling you this yesterday, Hardy, on the way down in the elevator. Like, I know, like, BSing.
Yeah.
Because you got to just, if you have to have an opinion on everything, you're half-assing these. You don't, like, you wouldn't be talking in real life about all this stuff to this degree. Right. You're just latching onto anything that seems logical.
Yeah, you're talking with your neighbor or your buddy or your brother or sister or whatever about the game, and it's like it always reverts back to your first thoughts. My first thoughts on this game were Matthew Stafford's still pretty good. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I think I like the Rams, but I'm bum. And then you, as you said, Fred, you have to fill all this time and you have to examine every permutation and every facet of the game, and you're like, well, maybe they will be motivated, but they've removed themselves from this. Are they going to be too worried about their homes back? It comes down to the 60 minutes on the field, whose team and coaches are better and more equipped, and also which way is it trending. And you saw the way things were trending for Sam Darnold after the Lions game.
Right. I'm just talking. Yeah, I just thought it was funny that they were using the wildfires as a reason that the Rams would lose, and then they were using them as the way they would win.
Yeah.
And then and now then pontificating that mojo would be gone by next weekend.
So we were wrong about that, but now it's all used up.
Right.
There's only so much emotion connected to those fires, and they used it all.
And they're saying, well, the Eagles, they're not going to be able to do that defensively against the Eagles. And it's like, well, the Eagles were 14-2, or I'm sorry, 13 wait, yeah, no, 14-3. They were 14-3. So what do you mean the the Rams had a better record or the same record as the Eagles?
Rams are 10-7.
No, I mean the Vikings. The Vikings were 14-3.
Yes.
Right.
So now all of a sudden the Vikings are a bad team because they lost the Lions the last week of the season in Detroit, the number 1 seed in the NFC, a team with 2 losses. I'll tell you this: if I'm Philadelphia, I'm very upset that the Rams won the way that they won last night because I don't like the idea of Stafford and McVay going into Philadelphia against Sirianni and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts was beyond unimpressive last week.
And he wasn't good last year.
Yeah.
2 years ago, he was good. 3 years ago, he was good.
Hurts was a passenger last weekend.
So yeah,
let's
just
see.
the swing in momentum and the how different these teams looked, I think, is the story. I mean, the Vikings, watched them during the regular season. It wasn't a fake 14-3 record.
No.
And that was a good team that was playing well. They played so poorly in these last two games. And on the other side of it, you got the Eagles, who looked so good during the regular season, and that was a very unimpressive playoff win. So I don't know how worried Sirianni is about his team right now. I don't know how worried they are specifically about the Rams, but they should be worried about that Rams offense. The reasons we just mentioned. They got a handful of weapons, and Stafford is not put off by these moments. He's been playing this way for years and years and years. And if you get Matthew Stafford down in the second half, even late into the fourth quarter, he's come back enough times to where he's not going to be thrown off by that.
That's the thing. Stafford's been around, and people think, oh, Stafford's just been there. Not only has Stafford been there, he's put up some huge numbers. He's in the top 10 all time in passing yards and touchdown passes at this point in his career. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Did you see the playoff yards record that they put up there last night?
Yes.
And I guess I thought Brady would have been in there but it was average. It was average passing yards per game.
Yes.
So over 300 yards in playoff games.
Yes.
Essentially is what
Fouts
it was.
is one. I forget who the other guy was.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stafford's right there. And the other thing about Stafford last night is he was throwing the ball well, but then you look at his final numbers, not really that impressive. I think he completed one pass to Cooper Kupp last night.
Yeah.
And 5 to Nakua, and they still won easily.
Well, he started off, I guess, statistically the best he's ever started a game, to my understanding. Remember, he was like 9 for 9 to start the game. They scored right away, which they haven't been doing all season.
It's Goff-esque.
I mean, let's not go crazy. But I'll tell you what, Goff's a better playoff quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
I mean, you got Stafford and Goff. I mean,
no. If I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I am definitely.
They have the worst quarterback left in the playoffs. I like Jaden Daniels a lot more than I like Jalen Hurts.
I saw the spread.
They're not going to have to play
a lot of places. Philadelphia by 6. I'd take the Rams. I mean, the Rams are going to make this interesting, if not win outright.
They have the better coach and better quarterback, and that seems like a fairly decent recipe in the NFL. But credit to Aaron Glenn, because you saw in the last game of the season, which was essentially a playoff game at Detroit for Minnesota, that Aaron Glenn just blitzed Sam Darnold. He wouldn't stop.
Right.
Even though the Detroit secondary was so depleted, he went man and blitzed him all the time, and it shook him up. And that's exactly what the Rams did last night.
Going back to what you said at the end of the last segment, Sam Darnold, and again, you watch more Jet games than I did. I haven't watched a lot of Vikings games. Sam Darnold holds on to the football way
he
too
does.
long. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he does statistically.
Especially when under pressure. And that's the thing Aikman kept saying over and over. You see man-to-man and you see blitz, you got to get the ball
get rid
out
of the ball.
there.
Well,
and he never did.
He had the ultimate safety valve because he could hold the ball. And, he's athletic. He can move around.
Sure.
And so he would move around, and then Justin Jefferson, he could just chuck it up.
Sure.
It was like the old, speaking of Stafford, it was like the old Calvin Johnson thing. Stafford would run around, and then he would just hawk it up. And even in double coverage, you can go on YouTube. You just chuck it into double coverage, and, Johnson would just leap over everyone and get the catch. So, I like Los Angeles going into Philadelphia. I don't know. That should mean nothing to anyone.
But if you're a quarterback-hungry team, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, has the last 2 weeks altered your stance?
Yes, I would. I would franchise him.
Well, yeah, if you were considering signing Darnold to a long-term contract, I wouldn't do it now.
I would not.
Not after the last 2 weeks.
No, this last night. The sacks are one thing, and he was sacked 9 times for a loss of 82 yards, and then there were the picks.
Darnold hits his back foot, looking for a target, lets it go. It's intercepted! Picked off at the 41-yard line! The Land Shark does it again!
I apologize. Just the one pick last night. But overall, Sam
He
Darnold.
fumbled the ball.
Don't forget the fumble and the scoop and score.
Yeah, he fumbled.
Oh, yeah, that was.
He's got a bad fumbling
Against the rush. Blitz coming. He's hit. Ball down. Scooped up. Jervers has it. Down the right sideline with blockers. 10, 5. A leap in the end zone. The defensive rookie of the year with a scoop and score.
So I think that was the play where the play was just to throw it to the spot where Justin Jefferson was supposed to be. And Jefferson fell down after making contact just off the line of scrimmage. So he went there. He had one place to go on that, and it should have been, like a 0.8 second release. Boom, got it. There he is. He wasn't there. He had to take an extra step or two back. Next thing you know, he's on the ground, balls out, touchdown Rams.
One note about this play, and they brought it up on the broadcast right afterwards. The Rams haven't had a first-round pick in like a decade because they traded him all away. They picked that kid Verse 19th in the first round, and he's the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. It's pretty good drafting.
Well, look at how look at Nakua and everything else they got later in drafts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no Jill and Poke. But
there's one more thing from the game,
go ahead.
Fred, and this was the most controversial moment of the game. One of the most controversial, thank you, moments of Wild Card Weekend.
That looks to me like, he's trying to get rid of the football and make it an incomplete pass.
Boy, it's close. They are going to take a look at this, and I think they're going to stop the game and make it a forward pass.
And it should be intentional grounding. I mean, I don't think there was anybody close to, you got Puka Nakua, because that's what the design of the play was. Now, will they...
After review...
Nakua could have caught it.
I know,
if it was like at a point, like it was so obviously not intentional grounding. Nakua was there; he was right there.
It was luck, though. He had his head down. He couldn't see where Nakua was. He was being spun around.
It wasn't okay. It wasn't a fumble. I have made my peace with that. So Stafford is going.
If you threw
down.
it in front of him, it's not a fumble.
I know, but he didn't know if he was facing backwards or forward.
He's bent over like a pretzel, and he lets the ball go. But to call that anything other than intentional grounding, I think is ridiculous.
You can't call it intentional grounding. There was a receiver in the area.
That was
it's the letter of the law.
It was lucky that Nakua was standing there, but it wasn't intentional grounding because he was standing there.
Right. This I'll say about Darnold is you got to give a quarterback a little bit of leeway. Their first playoff experiences. The last game of the season against the Lions was a playoff game. It was a playoff game. It was one was going to be the 1 seed with the bye, one was going to be the 5 seed and go on the road.
Sure.
So he struggles in that game, and then he's got to turn around the next week. So usually if you lose a playoff game, you have a whole offseason to prepare yourself, and then a whole other season. You have a calendar year to get yourself back mentally from that. I will say about Darnold is that when you struggle in that Detroit game, it's got to be very difficult to come back the next week on the road and play well. And this game wasn't on Darnold as much as, obviously, the Lions game was, where they could have easily won that game had he played well.
How many of those sacks? I mean, I don't know if you watched the whole game last night. I only watched the first half. I watched the first half. How many of those sacks of the 9 that he took were on him? At least 3. Maybe more.
Probably.
The offensive line wasn't perfect.
But 5 sacks isn't good either.
Yeah.
So, and then after you've been sacked a few times, look, I'm apologizing for Darnold. I just wouldn't be so quick to write him off. But I do agree with you. If I'm the Vikings and I was thinking about trading J.J. McCarthy, I'm not trading J.J. McCarthy now.
No.
But I don't know if I'd let Darnold leave. I understand franchising him is an awful lot of money, but it's 1 year. I don't know what their cap situation is, but I would tend to I would want to franchise him. McCarthy coming off an injury, give him a year to get ready, and then play him 2 years from now because you have a chance to make noise next year, obviously.
If you're another NFL team and the starting rate for quarterbacks is $45-50 million a year, you're gonna trade for a guy who's franchised. This is what the Vikings are hoping. You're trading for a guy that's franchised. And so you get away with it for 1 year.
If they franchise him, it's to keep him. No one's going to trade for him if he's franchised. If they let him go to the open market, that's the question.
Yeah, no, I was.
And he'll make a lot of money.
Oh wow,
he's going to make a lot of money, Johnny. He's not going to make.
Gamble.
He's not going to make Jordan Love money.
Of course not. Well, who can't? Who does?
You realize that Jordan Love's
I know.
the second highest paid
Yes, I
quarterback in
do.
the NFL.
I'm rolling right with you here.
Yeah, I don't think he'll make Jordan Love money, but I do think he'll make a lot of money.
I can't see spending $30, $35, $40 million a year on that guy.
You and I both, but how many quarterbacks are available?
I know.
Here's a good way of looking at it. I heard this yesterday. There's 32 quarterback positions in the NFL, starting quarterback positions. How many people in the world do you think could play starting quarterback successfully in the NFL?
15, maybe?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. There's only about 15 people in the world that can play professional quarterback successfully, and there's only 32 jobs. That means if you can find anyone that has a chance of being good.
I know. I just
you got to go after.
Even though the cap is as large as it is, and I know we got a break. Even though the cap is as large as it is, spending $40 million on that guy.
I don't think you'll get $40 million.
Wow.
But I think you get $35 million.
Oof.
All right. Here are the headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots introduced Mike Vrabel as their new head coach yesterday in Foxborough. Burt Breer confirmed as well that Giants advisor and former Tennessee interim GM Ryan Cowden is coming to Foxborough to be Elliott Wolf's second in command. Dallas Cowboys announced Mike McCarthy will not be back next season. McCarthy will apparently meet with the Chicago Bears tomorrow, and Jerry Jones has reportedly already spoken to Deion Sanders about the opening. As we were talking about, the LA Rams beat Minnesota in a playoff game last night 27-9, and the Bruins play Tampa Bay at TD Garden tonight. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Avidia Bank, the Metro West's best bank. Work with a community bank that goes above and beyond their customers and their community. Head to Honest to Goodness, member FDIC, member DIF. I'm John Wallach on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7 o'clock.
You're listening to have it. Toucher and Hardy resumes on the Sports Show.
There's a guy like saying mean things to her, and then
we have the edited version of it.
Okay, so yeah, so I'll just set it up. So there's a guy who apparently was saying mean things to her. Then the fiance of the woman who's being the Packers fan starts filming, and this is what happens.
Yeah, and you'll I think, be able to figure out what's being said.
Says the C word.
After reviewing the play, the runner was short of the goal line.
They got one more yard, though. They're close.
Like Tigers.
Okay, well, don't call her, don't. Cool.
All right, so he's calling her an ugly, dumb blank, and
Them birds, you don't have first down.
Essentially, the Eagles fan was calling her an ugly, dumb blank for cheering when she shouldn't have been cheering, and the husband's trying to defend her, and also videotape or
all right, so
taking a recording on his phone of the whole thing.
So here's the deal: is that he saw this guy was talking to his fiance, so he then pulls out his phone and starts taping it. He goes, "Hey, don't say that to my fiance again." And then the guy says, "What are you going to do about it?" And he goes, "Nothing." And then the guy goes, "That's because she's blah, 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 blah." And then the guy goes, okay, cool. And then stops it. So here's what went on there. First of all, is there any other scenario except a football game where that guy would have said that to that woman? I don't know what happens in a football game. Like, if you read the story, he's not doubling down on she's a dumb, ugly C word.
Every week and I love sending these. Every week there's a football fight. Yeah. Every week there is a fan video capturing a fight in the stands at a football game.
And then, but this gets me to my second point. So the guy is a maniac that said it. No, I don't know what about being at the Eagles game made, and he doesn't even seem like loaded. Whatever about the Eagles game made him so like just out of his mind that he's willing to say that. But my second thing is about the fiance. So he's apparently some social media guy, like not a social media star, but he does social media marketing. His plan is this. All right, so this guy has said these things to my fiance. I'm going to get him to do it again. So I'm going to turn on my phone and then get him to do it again. And when the guy goes, "Are you going to do anything about it?" I'm going to say no. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm going to watch the rest of the game go by. Then when the game's over, I'm going to post it on the internet and ask for internet people to find out who he is and do something about it. So here's what he's saying. You called my wife a dumb C word. Probably 5 people heard it around us. I'm too much of a pussy to fight you.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape it, and now I'm going to let the world know that this was said to her. And so now she's going to be the lady that was the dumb C word. So what's going to happen is this. They found the guy. Everyone says this guy's a piece of garbage. And now he's removed from the games forever. Fine. Great. This gets what he deserves. He's acting like a maniac. But now this woman who did nothing but stand there, she's got these 2 idiot guys, one calling her names, the other one filming it. And now this whole thing's going to go, you know how the internet goes. Now everyone's going to jump in and start talking crap about her because the guy put it on the internet to tell on him. This whole thing is just so... That guy who filmed it's a huge pussy. If you have such a problem about it, then tell security to remove the guy or fight him. You're going to tape it and then put the phone in your pocket and then tattle on him after the game?
Whether you get security or you fight him yourself, it's so foreign to me. Like your first instinct would be to go into your pocket, take out your phone, open up the camera.
And get him to say it again.
Hit record and... Oh, let's record this for posterity's sake.
No, to hold on to it and play a long con game where I'm going to tell the internet on him.
God.
Tell about him on the internet.
I don't get that.
And if I'm his fiance, I'm like, you pussy. I'm not marrying you.
Oh. Well, they've already sent out the invitations. Save the dates at least.
The bravest thing you can do is break off an engagement once that already has happened. I have a friend who did that, and I have nothing but respect for him because it's so easy to go through and just go through with it because it's the easiest thing to do.
How close to the wedding did he get?
Pretty close. And
like a week, or is it like further?
I think it was
away?
like 3 months.
Okay.
But everything was in motion, and the place was booked, and he knew he didn't want to do it. And I give him all the credit in the world for breaking that off. Instead of going through with the marriage and being unhappy and eventually getting divorced.
Sure, no, I get it.
Him.
I'm just saying how much there's pressure 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 months. But if you get really close, like a week, 2 weeks, then that's crazy.
Yeah, but whatever. It's better than going through with it and putting the other person through that. It's much better to do it before you get married.
So here's my other question about this guy who has now been banned from future Eagles games, because there was a story earlier this week about the 2 Yankees fans tried to pry open the glove of Mookie Betts, right?
Yeah, they've been disinvited. They got the Dead Sea Scrolls sent
from
them.
Major League Baseball.
I know,
not just the Yankees.
How in the world? Well, I don't know how you.
Go ahead.
Here's my question: How does that work?
Yeah, how do you enforce that?
Yeah, this guy, you can't come to the Eagles games anymore. Okay. Wait until week 2 next year.
Yeah,
when everyone's forgotten about it.
Are we rocking the Vegas facial recognition software at Lincoln Financial?
And even if they do, what are they going to go through 80,000, 60,000 people? They're going to go all facially recognize them, and it's going to come up. That's not happening. His name will be flagged if he buys the tickets.
Right.
But if he goes to the game,
same thing with those 2 idiot Yankee fans.
Right.
Yeah.
But just everyone in that's wrong. First of all, I don't know what gets into people at football games where it's something specific. It doesn't really happen at baseball or basketball games. I suppose it happens at hockey games, but not like football games. Something about a football game just gets everyone all charged up, and they feel like it's like a lawless environment. And second of all, if I'm that woman, I'm leaving that guy. Why are you putting me on the internet? Like victimizing me on the internet, so now everyone hear me being called ugly. I don't like that. And then second of all, you puss, get him kicked out of the game, you pussy, or fight him. When the guy said, are you going to do anything about it? Go, yeah, I'm getting security, and that's perfectly fine. Or yeah, punch him in the effing face. Fight him then.
It's got to be the tailgating that you don't get any.
But people are drunk all the time. Like if you go to a bar, I know it happens, but not to the degree, like not that randomly that you just start, just because someone's wearing something
I don't
that
know.
you don't like.
I'm grabbing at straws. Like there are very few baseball parks, like Philadelphia, you can tailgate outside on a weekend.
No, being drunk has something to do with it, obviously, but people are drunk all over the place. Believe me, there's a lot of people drunk in places you don't even know people are drunk. And people are drunk walking around in the afternoon.
And Wallach, be careful grabbing at those straws. I'd rather you stuck to the wrappers, because you start trying to carry those things around, and they're very difficult unless they're already bent and softened up a little bit. You're much better with paper.
I gotta say, I didn't see the bird joke coming there.
Wrappers.
That's impressive.
Well, you know what I worry about is the plastic they keep 6-packs in.
Oh, well, you cut them up, don't you, before you throw them in the trash?
Yeah, because they think it's for the water and the animals not getting caught in it, the fish.
The 6-round rings, yeah.
But I think, you know it.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the 6-round rings of death for you. All right, anyway. So I like that. I'm going to film it, and I'm going to put it in my pocket, and I'm going to tell on him after the game, and everyone's going to shame him. But in real time, I'm just going to let it all happen, and then I'm going to announce to the world that look at how this guy thinks my fiance is ugly. I'm a real hero.
You said everybody's wrong. Is she wrong? Is she wrong for cheering at an inappropriate time in the game?
No, she's the victim here. I just said that.
No, well, you said everyone was wrong in this situation.
I thought it was obvious, but I guess you're so sexist that you can't even see it.
No, what I am.
I'm white knighting.
What I am is a white knight.
I'm white knighting. I'm trying to white knight for her. Get out of the way.
I'm the white knight.
I'm white knighting for her. All I know is this: if I was the girl, I'd be like, "Why are you putting this on the internet? I don't want everyone to see me this."
Eagles are also sending them a bunch of Packers gear, which is nice.
Nice. That's really nice.
You can look like more of a loser walking around with 10 Packers things on at the game. And by the way, walking in with all that Packers gear to a Philadelphia game, it doesn't make it right. But, I mean, you have to assume that there's going to be a little bit of jawing at your expense.
Yeah, we're not exactly in Happy Land, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
the environment's a little different.
Yeah, I wore Kansas City stuff to the Oakland game when they were in Oakland. and I got in a fight.
Despite all those fights you saw at Chargers games, I'm going to wear Oakland Raiders stuff.
Yeah, I mean, come on. All right. We'll be right back. The Vrabel press conference happened yesterday, and we'll give our thoughts.
coach. There were a lot of questions about what his offense would look like in 2025. He answered, it depends.
You know, everybody has access to this, and everybody has some experience with different types of offense, but it's what the players can get good at. How much can you reasonably do? You don't want to dabble in things and say, we're going to dabble in RPOs when the quarterback, you know, that's not a strength of his.
Vrabel added there was nothing concrete in regards to his new staff and front office, but our own Burt Breer quickly reported yesterday Vrabel's interim GM in Tennessee, Ryan Cowden, is indeed joining the Patriots as Elliott Wolf's second in command. The Dallas Cowboys let Mike McCarthy go yesterday. ESPN and others are reporting that Jerry Jones has already spoken to Colorado's Deion Sanders about the head coaching vacancy. Although no official interview between the two has been scheduled, McCarthy will apparently meet with Chicago tomorrow. The LA Rams beat Minnesota 27-9 in Arizona yesterday to move into the second round of the NFL playoffs. They'll visit Philadelphia on Sunday, and the Bruins play Tampa Bay at TD Garden tonight. Second matchup between these two teams in a week. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mark McLaughlin was sent down to Providence yesterday, and forward Vinny Lettieri called up. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Service Credit Union. They've teamed with Charlie McAvoy again this season for 73 reasons to defend New England's first responders. Visit servicecu.org/73. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7:30.
Boston plays here.
Coming through the slot. Close shot. Save. Rebound. Scored.
98.5 The Sports Hub. You said you wanted to hear more music in the morning.
Never had to knock on wood, but I never had it yet.
No, you said you didn't want to hear more music in the morning. Okay. Here's more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
It's my great honor to introduce you all to the next head coach of the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel.
All right. Mike Vrabel, as you just heard, was introduced as the coach of the New England Patriots. It was a much different vibe than it was a year ago when Mayo was introduced as coach. And Ryan has extensively gone through this and pulled many, many clips. You tell me where you want to start.
Well, we'll get past the thanking of the friends and the family and the blah, 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 blah. How did he ultimately decide on New England?
I want to thank the teams that were, willing to meet with me through this process to give me an opportunity to potentially lead their team. But in the end, it was clear to me and to my family and my soul that this was the place that I wanted to be. And I thank Robert and I thank the Kraft family.
And it was all part of the process going back to, he was asked later on in the press conference when we were first thinking about it, when I first got into coaching, I thought about coming back to New England and being here. So I think it's safe to say, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's what he wanted to do. That's, what's your ultimate goal? To be a head coach back in New England with the Patriots. And that's where he finally got himself. I don't think it diminishes anything that he did along the way, but this was for any team that went through the process of trying to interview him and get him to come in there after he left Tennessee even. Know now, if you didn't know then, it was not going to happen, or it was going to be for a very short amount of time until this job became available to him.
Well,
he got it.
He told Brady apparently that he wasn't going to, don't bother interviewing me, I'm taking the Patriot job, which lets you know. I heard Tara Sullivan on with Joe last night, and she was saying that the way that the statement about Mayo being fired was written, and it came out like an hour and a half after the game, that obviously they had written it before the game. They had talked to Vrabel before all of this. And they had every right to. It's not tampering. You didn't have a job, so they knew what was happening. Vrabel knew what was happening. But if you're a team that did interview him, I think that's great. If you're a team that interviewed, if you had an opportunity to interview the guy that's going to be the coach of a competing team.
I was just going to say the Jets especially. You got a chance to pick the brain of the guy you're going up against twice a year for another 3 or 4 years.
Right.
However long it is. I mean, you get some insight into the man's mind and what he may or may not do at certain times. Sure.
Yeah, and because there's people going like, why would you waste your time interviewing him? And it's like, well, it's not a waste of time. It's talking for 3 hours, and I'd keep him for every one of them. For 3 hours of talking about a guy and he could be not telling you everything, but he's telling you something. He can't just make up stuff for 3 hours. It's not Robin Williams. So you're going to get at least conceivably some insight into the mind of a guy who's going to be coaching against you twice a year.
But before we get into the what his plans are for the team, just a little bit more on how he got to this point.
When I started my coaching career, I think it was important for me to go somewhere else, to start another coaching journey. The opportunity at one point was probably presented itself to be here coaching, but I felt like it was important to forge my own path somewhere else. And
Ohio State, where you had no connections.
There's a lot of tiny, subtle little, not even shots, but just references to either ownership or the previous coach. That's a little one right there. I thought it was important to go somewhere else and start my coaching career, say, as opposed to Gerard Mayo, who never knew anything other than being a New England Patriot.
Yeah. But you know why he would say that beyond it being a shot? He's saying, I'm different.
Yeah.
That I'm just different. If I'm Gerard Mayo and I hear that, I'm not angry about it. He's just saying, I'm different. And he's right. I mean, somewhere the Belichick sons are saying, "What are you talking about?" Well, you just leech on your father.
Steve
and
tried. He tried.
Well, he does have a relationship with Belichick.
Having played for him and having competing against him, and then also having a friendship with Bill, right along the way, I think it's special. It's unique having played here, knowing Bill. But again, we have to focus on things that are going to help us win now, help our players, and like I said, galvanize the building and the team and our fan base.
So I'm glad he brought that up and said, look, yeah, I know him and I've talked to him and I've had these, conversations with him. But whether it's his connection to Belichick or referencing the banners and the championships that hang in the stadium, he made a point of saying it doesn't help you win any games. He said, yeah, it speaks to things that have been done here before and maybe gives you a reminder that, of what is possible, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just part of the history. That's it. That's it, and that's all. It really doesn't have anything to do, much like Belichick doesn't have much to do with what they need to do starting today.
A clear vision as to what the roster looks like and what his goals are.
Just to be a devil's advocate,
sure.
The success that the franchise has was his ownership is part of the reason he took the job. I mean, I don't think he was taking the Jet job because he had a dream of working with Woody Johnson and all the success he's had. He has a relationship with the Krafts. There's a reason he wanted to come back here. I don't think it's the fans either.
I think from a more tangible regard is what he meant. Like having won championships in the past has no bearing on whether you'll win this year.
No, I know why he said it. I'm just saying, I'm just picking apart what he said because this is the exercise. I mean, I know why he said it. Yeah, this is a fresh chapter. We're not relying on the past, but just to be devil's advocate, he is relying on the past. That's why he took the job.
Well, you heard him mention there, and that was from much later in the press conference, talking about galvanizing the program. Is it galvanize one of his key words of the day?
Excited to get to work, excited to meet the people in this building that have made this place special, find out what they need, find out how I can help them, how I can help them do their job better, how we can enhance the stuff that we do well, and then find out what the areas of focus are and get to work. I want to galvanize our football team. I want to galvanize this building. I want to galvanize our fans. And the most important thing are the players. There's some of them right here.
You say that enough times, it doesn't even sound like a word anymore. Galvanize. Galvanize.
Right. It sounds like someone got a thesaurus right before the game.
Yeah.
Galvanize. Is that a word? I'm going to keep saying it.
We went to Ohio State, so what do you want out of the guy?
It's better than the other buzzwords from last year.
Oh, no. Now the Ohio State people are going to be very upset.
Sorry, Bert. Sorry, Rick. My daughter's applied there. Hasn't heard back yet.
Your daughter's getting into Ohio State. I got news for you. Your daughter's very intelligent from what you've said.
Boss, I don't think Fred said anything wrong. I think you're fine. I think the station's
no,
fine.
No. Now the Knights of Columbus are going to come after us. What do you mean the Knights of Columbus? They're the Knights of Columbus, Ohio, the Ohio State alumni.
Them and the Kiwanis.
Oh, no.
I'm going to have Rotaries and the Optimist Club and everybody else.
Those weird Shriners are going to come by in them hats.
So you get a lot of phone calls to your boss about stuff like this?
Oh, Wally.
I can't forget.
Oh, come on.
Nicholas,
We're rolling.
I have a job for you. It's too inside.
Yeah, it's still good, though.
Lock it up. Make it secure.
You're rolling downhill. It's a slippery slope. Next time you're taking shots at Marquette.
Gonna enter the cone of silence.
Why even alienate that base? All right, no one knows what we're talking about.
It's still good, though.
Yeah, I did that for you, too.
Thank you.
All right. Culture. Vrabel, what do you got?
But that culture is going to be built on winning, a competitive spirit throughout our roster, throughout our players, and throughout our coaches and our staff, and the ability to put the team first and care about somebody other than yourself. I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to get to work. But everything and everyone in this building is going to understand and believe that their job is critically important for our success.
All right, good. And he also said that something interesting about team culture, it doesn't necessarily come when you're winning Super Bowls.
I want to provide a program that provides their ownership, but also their accountability of each other, and one that they'll be proud to be a part of and that they're going to fight for. You know, you guys are going to ask me questions about culture, which I'll be happy to talk about and discuss. One thing I've realized about culture is that you can find out what your culture looks like when your family, your business, or your team is at its low point.
Well,
okay,
you've come at the right time.
People are picking apart Vrabel, and they're starting to affect me. He had who's the coach of Green Bay? I just had it on the top of my tongue. LaFleur. He had LaFleur as an offensive coordinator, lost him. Had Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator and lost him, and then his team fell apart. He took over a playoff team and just kept them sort of consistent. You could do this probably with anyone, but he's never had to build anything. So the whole notion, again, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I'm just like you. I'm going through this whole thought process. But these are valid points. I have brought up his record with Tennessee. They were 9-7, and then he took over, and they were 9-7 with them. He went to an AFC championship game. I understand that. And I know everyone's got all the blood is running to their penis because he outsmarted Belichick on some obscure rule during a playoff game. I get it. But he is, and we went through the exercise yesterday, is that the best offensive teams in the NFL don't have offensive head coaches. I understand all of that. But his success is extraordinarily dependent on having a great offensive coordinator.
But I think he understands that. I think he gets that. And from my point of view, and you're right about that, he's never had to build anything from the ground up. He inherited a pretty good roster. But he said everything as a Patriots fan I wanted to hear. He stepped in, and it was, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He is going to take over. There was no question. He's the guy in charge. He's working with Elliott Wolf. I honestly don't think Elliott Wolf's going to be around for a while.
I do.
I think that that guy Cowden's going to come in and ultimately take over.
I think he ultimately will, but do you trust Cowden to come in and
no?
What has he done?
No, he hasn't done anything.
No, right.
He hasn't done anything. I guess as a Patriots fan, it's a good first step forward. The difference between Gerard Mayo's introduction and Mike Vrabel's introduction was night and day. Vrabel came in and said, I'm going to do this. This is how we're going to do it. I want to work with the players. I want to make them better. Whatever I can do to help. Mayo, it was all,
Mayo didn't know what he was doing.
No, and it was painfully obvious after listening to Vrabel again yesterday and juxtaposing the two. You're right about this stuff. The future is unclear, but I liked what I heard on day one from the new guy.
No, and you're absolutely right. That's a good point. The floor, I do believe, is way. Well, I mean, the floor is. I mean,
all of a sudden everything's organized.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
The floor is higher.
Else.
It's just that the Krafts were so hyper-focused on him at the expense of everyone else.
Well,
and
you know my feeling about that.
I know you don't like that. And then that just a lot of people are going, this is great. Again, no one knows what they're talking about, myself included. Everyone's saying that this is great. But now I've heard people in Tennessee talk about him. You know, again, he inherited a good team. He kept them fairly consistent. And then when he lost his offensive coordinators and lost A.J. Brown, and people are going, well, he lost A.J. Brown. So you lost a receiver and all of a sudden your season tanks? Like, what if your number one receiver gets hurt? Like, this is the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be missing 7, 6, 7. Look at the Lions. They're missing their whole entire defense.
True, but he walks in with his eyes open. One of the best quotes, and we don't have time to get to it, is, I don't know if we're good enough now as a team to take advantage of bad football. There's no worse self-assessment of a franchise as a head coach that you can make. He said, I just want to do that, and then we'll move forward from there. He knows he needs an offensive line. He said it in the press conference.
So there's that we'll get to later on, along with his full, lovely, heartfelt exchange with Karen Guregian.
Oh, it was nice.
It was they had a moment. It was very nice.
Oh, I'm pronouncing Guregian. Whoopsie daisy. I apologize.
I used to do the soft G, but then at some point I switched over to
Me
the
too. I did the soft G also.
We should ask Karen.
Yeah, maybe we should. That's a good point.
I would have had her on. She was good on. She was on with Joe last night. I enjoyed it.
Karen's like one of these 3-4 people who's going to emerge from Boston sports media, and everyone's going to say there's only a handful. Like Numi was one of them. Like everyone liked him. Like it's very difficult to go through this business and to have, at least not 2 or 3 people despise you, or at least half the people think you suck. And everybody likes Karen. Everybody respects Karen.
Yeah.
Everybody except for one person I know of, like Numi. It was our
I love her. Newmeyer was so nice. He was so nice to me when I first started.
Awesome. There was one of our former bosses. I don't think cared for him too much. Because Newmy put him in his place once.
Well, he went out of his way to be nice to me. Him and Howie, I'll never forget them. They were when everyone was crapping on me had no business doing this. Newmeyer and Howie Sylvester were the 2 people that were very, very outside of
Howie doesn't like anyone. Howie doesn't like anybody, and he liked you.
Well, Howie Carr and I are both hard-scrabbled reporters, so I mean, we got it. I mean, I tried to take the Irish mob beat from him. I told you. I'm sorry, Adam. Just take 10 seconds. Rucker's like, when I first moved here, he's like, dude, you got to read this Howie Carr book about Whitey Bulger. It rules. So I said, okay, and he gave it to me. And I opened it up, and I'm like, what language is this? It's like what? You know how Howie Carr writes in just this, okay, I get it. Boston, right? But, you can read Jimmy Breslin and, understand it. I couldn't understand one thing Howie Carr was writing. Maybe I'm an idiot. Well, I guess I am. But it's funny. It's Newmeyer, Guregian, and Fred.
Yeah.
The 3, that's like the 3.
That's the triumvirate.
That's the triumvirate of people that are going to come out of this thing loved. All right. We'll be back in just a moment. Christopher Price is going to join us from the Globe.
Toucher and Hardy. Boston sports.
And I have had many offers become an insider.
Robert mentioned that we won 12 games in 2001. We played 91 players, and they all cared about the team immensely. They would do whatever it took for the team to win. And with that, the coaches that have impacted me along the way, my high school football coach, Jerry Reardon, I think I've had a great opportunity to play for, to coach with, and coach for some unbelievable mentors.
We're Toucher and Hardy. Christopher Price is the Patriots writer for the Boston Globe. Christopher Price, thank you for joining us, sir. We do appreciate it.
Good morning, Fred. Good morning, Hardy. Good morning, John.
Hey, Chris. Good morning.
We appreciate it as always. Your takeaways from the Vrabel press conference, did you glean anything substantial from it or anything like that?
Well, it certainly seems like he is, at least in the short term, ready to work with Elliott Wolf and Matt Groh and Alonzo Highsmith and whoever his kind of, the holdovers will be from the previous regime. He went out of his way a number of times to reference Elliott, talking about inside jokes they already have. They're best friends, clearly. And so this shotgun marriage, as I wrote today, at least for the short term, is still going to be in place. I don't know how much longer, it's going to be there. But at least right now, you're going to have Vrabel and you're going to have Elliott and you're going to have Matt Groh and you're going to have the whole group of them working together.
All right. So, but he's bringing in someone that he's worked with before.
Ryan Cowden.
Right. Ryan Cowden. But does Ryan Cowden have the experience where is he a slam dunk better option than Elliott Wolf?
No, we know. And look, this is the big thing, and this is maybe the biggest takeaway of it all from yesterday, including Kraft and everything. There's a comfortability with Vrabel and Cowden, and there's a comfortability with the Krafts and Vrabel, and they're all kind of moving forward together. So Cowden is kind of the wild card in all of this. But again, I think it goes back to the fact that Vrabel has a guy there in Cowden that he likes and he trusts. And he is going to be, at least again in the short term, it's all part, they're all going to kind of be part of the same collective.
Do you think that Elliott Wolf necessarily should get moved out, that he's done enough to justify losing his job?
No.
Yeah.
I think he deserves to stick around at least for another offseason. Look, I'll give him credit for not budging off of 3 last year and taking the guy and kind of making that step forward, helping that team take that kind of collective step forward. But he didn't have a great offseason. I think he deserves one more offseason as part of this ownership group, as part of this front office group. And then you kind of reassess from there, because look, this is Vrabel's the guy in the best possible world. He's going to be there for the next decade. And so you want to be able to, see if those two guys can work together, if they can foster a, positive working relationship. So ultimately, to answer your question, Fred, I think that he's earned the right to stay on.
Yeah. One more thing. I hear people call into the station and say anyone would have picked Drake May number 3. I'm going to do this again. 75% of you thought that they shouldn't take Drake May.
Okay, that's a number you keep making up and you insist upon.
It is trade down. You got to Marvin Harrison. Well, there's people on the station that said you can't draft the quarterback first, that you got to build a team around him. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. I remember. Usually, I don't remember.
Maybe not 75%, but Hardy, it was a significant number. It wasn't
nobody. We talk about it for 4 hours. I wasn't even going to argue with you about this, Chris, because I normally save this for Fred. But they got the.
Were you a guy who said
no
trade down?
No, they got the quarterback at 3. I think that's what they should have done. I think it was obvious, and they got the third quarterback left at 3. Okay, so that's number 1. I don't give him a ton of credit for that, but what else did he do? Now, the other way to go with that would have been, of course, to build from the lines out. I guess Philadelphia style is what I keep hearing, and people tell me
Campbell,
that's kind of what the Eagles did years ago.
Mm-hmm. Kansas City.
I don't know that look, you wouldn't have Drake May, and that'd be a borderline disaster if he were playing that well for someone else. You say, we could have had him at 3, but it would have been nice to have some kind of offensive line also, or it would have been nice to see Elliott Wolf do something beyond Drake May. And and if it's part of it, like an overall reset that's going to take a couple of years, Chris, okay, I'm with you. Give him another year, see what they do with all this cap space, and see what he can do to add to it. But getting Drake May alone is not enough for me to say, well, he did well there. Let's give him another year. I'm not quite there.
It's not so much getting Drake May, but not trading out of number 3 that I give him credit for. And we all saw the video on Hard Knocks where the Giants were taking a run at him. I know there were other teams that were taking a run at him at number 3.
Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota for that number 3 spot. And he could have traded down and he could have taken J.J. McCarthy, but he didn't. So let's give him an acknowledgement, I think, for that. Maybe that's the best possible thing. I think if you're going to take him to task for something in terms of building out from the offensive line, they should have taken an offensive lineman in the second round as opposed to Jalen Polk. And that's, look, hindsight is 20/20. But look, I think that when you talk about what Elliott Wolf has done over this last year, I'm willing to give him credit for making the right move when it came to the quarterback. When it came to the quarterback, that number 3 spot last year, he did the right thing.
And Hardy, I'm not saying that is justification for him keeping his job. I'm just saying that when people call in and say it was a no-brain decision, that's just not what people were saying before the draft.
Marvin Harrison Jr. was a big one.
I mean, they were trade down and you got to build a team. There was people, I've named them. There's people on this station, a lot of them, that were saying not to take Drake May. A lot of people on this station were saying it. In fact, maybe half the station was saying it. That's for sure. Go ahead, Jonathan.
All right, this leads us to the big question: how much say is Mike Vrabel going to have in personnel and on the draft board? And the thing I was able to glean from yesterday is a lot. He's going to have a lot of influence everywhere.
Yeah, he's going to be the one. If we had to sitting here right now in mid-January, if I had to guess in terms of who's going to have the final say on number 4 and what they do with that pick and the draft board and free agency, it's going to be Vrabel. My understanding is that they are Wolf and Highsmith and Cowden as a group will bring a group of names to Vrabel, and he will be able to say, all right, give me that guy. He will be the one. Last year, Elliott was very clearly the guy who was making the call when it came to free agency and the draft board. This year, it's going to be Vrabel who's going to have the loudest voice in the room.
Okay, so have you heard this, Christopher? I heard this for the first time yesterday, is that when they keep talking about this new grading system for in the draft to rank prospects, and you're like, oh, okay, this must be some innovative thing. Well, apparently, and tell me if this is true or if you've heard this, the way Belichick did it was based on fit. It wasn't even based on the ability of the player. No. So this revolutionary new way of grading prospects,
it's like everybody else,
is grading them on their ability. Which is so elementary. It's fascinating. We found a guy that is going to rank players based on how good they are. Which is interesting.
As opposed to just their body mass index.
Which is how you get N'Keal Harry, is you talk to the coach and you go, this guy's going to be a fit, and then you miss out on A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb, right?
Lamb? The whole approach, really, when you're talking about the old Belichick style, and it worked for a very long time at a number of different positions, was to draft to the team, to the fit, to the system. They had a system in place and they said, okay, well, this guy is going to slot in perfectly here. This guy is going to slot in perfectly for what we do here. The Packers approach, and this is the one that Elliott Wolf has favored for a long time, and the Packers and a whole lot of other teams, it's to simply, and I'm broad brushing it here, is to say, look, let's take the best player available. Let's take the best in whether it's, creates competition in training camp, whatever the case may be. They want the best player in that moment. When they're on the clock, who's the best guy out there? That's the one they're looking for. And again, look, the Belichick system, the Patriots system, it was great when you had a Hall of Fame quarterback and you had, guys around him and, you had the system that you had. But this is a change in an overall football philosophy. They haven't done this for an awful long time. And so look, the other thing too, you can swing and miss in that system. They did it last year. The two positions of need that they were going after were offensive line and wide receiver. They signed Chooks, and they drafted a couple offensive linemen. They drafted a couple of wide receivers in the first 4 rounds, and they pretty much swung and missed on all of them. So that's not a foolproof method either. My philosophy here, my own philosophy, is it kind of meets somewhere in the middle. You have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I think that's kind of maybe what you're going to see from the Vrabel, Wolf, Cowden combination going forward.
So who are the coordinators? Who are the offensive and defensive coordinators, do you think?
That, I'm not, if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm not worried about the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I think that, but Vrabel's background, even Vrabel's most ardent supporters that I've talked to over the last 3 or 4 days are not concerned, but curious about who the offensive coordinator is going to be. Because, and I heard you talking about this before, Fred, the offense in Tennessee wasn't this, forward, we had Arthur Smith for a couple of years, and it wasn't this forward-thinking offense. It's going to be interesting to see who he gets, because look, you get a guy like Derrick Henry, you got to build around Derrick Henry. He's a special player. They don't have anyone like that on this roster. Drake May maybe could become that guy. So you think you're going to have a quarterback-focused system here. So it's just the name that keeps coming up. The guy from the outside that keeps coming up is Tommy Reeves, he was the tight ends coach in Cleveland last year, young guy. But then the flip side of that is if you have success with Tommy Reeves is probably going to be a head coach sooner rather than later. So I don't know if you want a guy like that. I don't know if you want an established guy like Josh, who's probably going to be here a little bit longer, even if he has success with Drake. So that's the big question, I think, when it comes to his overall staff moving forward, who the OC is going to be.
Well, but I would say Arthur Smith and LaFleur are two tremendous offensive coordinators. I mean, he had two. I think Arthur Smith, you might disagree, but I think Arthur Smith is a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know. I agree with you. But again, this is the big question, because again, Vrabel's defensive bona fides are clear.
Sure.
They're obvious. It's just, what's he going to do? What sort of guy is he going to get in there that is going to be able to work with your young franchise quarterback to be able to take him to the next level? I love the idea of McCown. And I know a lot of people have talked about this, that, based on his background with Drake May, based on the work he's done over the last couple of years, getting a guy like that in here, I think would be very beneficial to May, the New England offense, and kind of keep the arrow pointer in the right direction.
Yeah, McCown had a relationship with May when he was in high school and college. So they've worked together for a long time. Christopher, that's what happens when your family is North Carolina athletic royalty. You get guys.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Christopher Price, thank you so much. Read him in the Globe. We appreciate the time.
I appreciate it, guys. Take care. Talk soon.
Thanks,
All right,
Chris.
thank you. One of the most misguided things, maybe ever, self-inflicted, has happened with a formerly famous sports media personality. We will discuss that after the headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots officially introduced Mike Vrabel as their new head coach yesterday afternoon at Gillette Stadium. Bert Burr is reporting that Vrabel's interim GM in Tennessee, Ryan Cowden, is indeed joining the Patriots as Elliott Wolf's second in command. The Dallas Cowboys announced yesterday head coach Mike McCarthy will not be back next season. Jerry Jones spoke to Colorado Buffalo's head coach Deion Sanders about his new vacancy yesterday. It appears that for now, Deion is going to stay put. The LA Rams beat Minnesota 27-9 in the NFL playoffs last night. They'll visit Philadelphia this Sunday, and the Bruins had last night off. They face Tampa Bay for the second time in a week tonight at TD Garden. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lopresti and Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, the hair doctor of Hardy, Charlie McAvoy, and Tuukka Rask. Call 1-800-GET-HAIR for your free consultation. I'm John Wallach at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 8 o'clock.
Cough it up, and let's get back to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah, Jason Whitlock, who's fat and ugly. He was smart enough to keep his distance from the beautiful woman because
that peanut butter skin with that big rack.
Because he knew with charm like that and all the success of being Jason Whitlock, it was just a matter of him wanting to do. So funny to me, like that's. And we've discussed this off air. I mean, that's a 2-man operation.
Oh yeah,
for him to have sex.
Yes,
there's someone that's
got to be a helper.
Yeah, there's got to be a helper. Which apparently Pavarotti needed a helper. Someone walked in on him getting an act performed on him, and there was another woman required because if there was a guy, it would be gay, and the woman's only role was to hold his belly.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the story. If you don't know, sports commentator and television personality Skip Bayless. There's a complaint from a hairdresser there that there was a hostile work environment. She was fired in 2024. She says it wasn't fair. She says that I can't pronounce her name. That's the only reason I'm saying it. She claims that Bayless, which began in 2017 and continued until last year, would do lingering hugs, kisses on the cheek, and comments that he could change this woman's life if she had sex with him. In 2021, she claims that Bayless offered her $1.5 million for sex, and she refused. And then he threatened her job. He was trying to pressure her into having sex with him, but she kept repeating that she was a professional and that had to be kind to all talent. So no doubt he was probably trying to have sex with her. The whole $1.5 million thing, there's a lot of... I don't know how that flies in a courtroom. I don't know how you prove he offered you $1.5 million. You've been, I think, smarter to say $10,000, which is a lot, too. I mean, you go to Seeking Arrangements, and there's far better deals. But nonetheless, Skip...
You know what? You're absolutely right. If she's just totally making it up, and we're not saying one way or the other, but the 1.5 thing, how do you take that seriously? If she were to come out and say 10,000, would you be inclined to believe that or not believe that?
Believe it.
Yeah.
But if I'm on a jury...
Skip Bayless, 10 grand? Yeah, that sounds about right.
If I'm on a jury and he said $1.5 million, even if I believe that he said that, I don't believe it was a sincere offer.
Exactly.
It had to have been in jest. But, I mean, if he's doing other stuff, too, it's probably a pattern of behavior, and who am I to judge this? Anyway, so Skip Bayless has decided that he's in his 70s. So he gets, I think he got fired from Fox Sports. He must have, right? Like, I don't think he retired.
Yeah. I don't think he voluntarily gives up that job.
So, he's in his 70s. He could just, either try to get a job with another media entity or he could just not work. He used to write and called Troy Aikman gay, even though he's not. So there was like a bunch of stuff there that he could do. But instead, this scientist, he gets his wife, and they're doing a YouTube show. Now, this is the show open to... Did you know he has a YouTube show? The one that I saw when I heard about this story, 2,000 views, which is like our morning show. So Skip Bayless is to the depths of local morning shows.
What a loser. He's on his shows on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh. All right, so here is the opening to the Skip Bayless new show with his wife.
Welcome to Skip versus Ernestine. This is round 6.
It rolls off the tongue. And you can tell Ernestine is not old based on the name Ernestine.
You can tell he's 73 because he's married to a woman named Ernestine.
That's a good point. That stops at like 1945.
Yeah, Ernestine. I don't know if I've ever met an Ernestine. That sounds like someone that Hoover was married to.
Welcome to Fred and Gwendolyn.
Yeah. Hildegard in
Bertha.
The crew. Bertha.
Welcome to Skip versus Ernestine. This is round 6. Welcome to the hottest new show going right now. We do fight. We make up. We do somehow love each other.
We do.
I think more than ever.
Could be.
That's not transparent at all. Oh my God. Could be. She sounds like she's really involved. Why is your wife on this? What the hell's going on?
Because without her, it's not the...
Welcome to the hottest new show going right now.
I want
he's using her as a human shield is what he's doing.
Yeah, but I think this started before the lawsuit.
Oh, all right.
I don't know why his wife is on this thing. Just sit there like Francesa and babble into the ether.
And now we bring all of the above out here on camera for all the world to see with our 8-year-old Maltese Hazel refereeing.
The Hazel's only 18 with the name Hazel? Hazel and Ernestine? It's a comedy duo from vaudeville.
What's a Maltese? Is that a dog?
It's a falcon.
Yeah.
It's a falcon.
John's got a boner.
It's a
Good
falcon.
movie.
What was that?
I don't know. Someone
A squawk?
And by the way, Hazel, she is my good luck charm, as we're about to get into.
Until your game loses, and then she's not good luck.
She'll do that in just a second.
You can tell she's a sports expert because she says until your game loses.
Only 2,000 people have watched this, you're saying.
All right. I'll pay this off at 8:20. We got a break, but you got to hear what this dumbass did based on these. I don't know if the allegations are true or not, but what this idiot did on this show, it's really something. No wonder no one knows what's going on at Fox Sports. Whitlock and Bayless are the two superstars that they invested in. But again, Whitlock, smart enough to stay away from the beautiful woman.
Keep your distance.
Because she would have just
that peanut butter skin
had no
with that
choice.
big rack.
I mean, who has a big, and he knows of big racks. All he has to do is touch his own chest.
She's got a big pair of cans.
And so do you. And, that's what women want. I know, as a man who suffers with his own breasts.
She's willing to let people enjoy those big cans.
Yeah, especially you big fatso.
I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah, you're capable of playing with yourself to her image. You're not capable of having sex with her. What the balls on that guy? We all can see you. Come on, dude. All right, we'll be right back. Phil Perry's going to join us.
More Toucher and Hardy on the way on the Sports Hub.
New year, new adventures.
in America.
We have a farm. I have about 200 pigs here.
We got to spill beers on each other without worrying about spilling beers on people.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Toucher and Hardy.
Such an fantastic explosion.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
I want to thank the teams that were willing to meet with me through this process to give me an opportunity to potentially lead their team. But in the end, it was clear to me and to my family and my soul that this was the place that I wanted to be. And I thank Robert and I thank the Kraft family.
We are Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. You can watch us on YouTube. Go to 98.5 The Sports Hub on YouTube, and the show is live. And then it's, for the most part, you can watch it all day. There's clips from all the shows. Joe Murray's live at night. Phil Perry covers the Patriots for NBC Sports Boston. Phil Perry, thank you for joining us on this day you're not supposed to be on.
I appreciate you guys having me every time I'm able to be on with you. You know that.
Thank you so much. And you are doing live stuff from Gillette starting at 8:30 today or something?
We're down to Gillette for what are to this point supposed to be sort of undisclosed reasons. So we'll be down there a little bit. I would have loved to be in the studio with you, but I'm in the car and I'm sitting in traffic.
Wait. So explain. So they have you down there for undisclosed reasons from the Patriots?
No, it's something for work.
Okay. All right. So listen, Vrabel, obviously everyone knew this probably was going to happen, but he mentioned Elliott Wolf a bunch of times in that press conference, but he also brought in one of his own guys. What do you think the structure of this team looks like going forward?
Yeah, this is the big question to me, and it's why I asked specifically about Ryan Cowden during the press conference yesterday, because I think people are a little concerned about the structure in the front office, and rightfully so, not just because of the way the team was built last offseason and some of the misses they had in free agency and the draft, but just because, based on NFL history, when you have arranged marriages between the head coach and the front office, whoever's running it, those tend not to work. And you don't have to go all that far back for a very pertinent example. And, Mike Vrabel in Tennessee is one of them. When John Robinson was fired in Tennessee, they moved on to Rand Carthon, not to Ryan Cowden, who was Vrabel's preferred option at the time. And there appears to have been some sort of power struggle there, according to reports. And, obviously Vrabel was fired not long thereafter. So it's always, in my opinion, asking a lot of people to be able to work together and trust each other when there isn't a pre-existing trust and a pre-existing relationship. And that appears to be the case with Vrabel and Elliott Wolf. Now, I know they had what sound like good meetings and good interviews, and they've already got inside jokes, and that's great for them. Maybe they'll hit it off, and maybe this will be one of the times that this sort of thing works. But, you're bringing in somebody, again, from the outside who hasn't worked with Elliott Wolf before, and Ryan Cowden. Now, how does everybody work together? Is there collaboration? Should there be? Does somebody not have to be in charge and just make the final call? Who will that be? If Elliott Wolf remains the number one, then, technically on the ledger, he's the guy with final say. He's going to be able to, make the decisions on the draft. Is that actually how it's going to play out? Or is it going to be Mike Vrabel telling him who to pick? I'm very interested just to see how all of these dynamics work, because the human element is involved. And again, if you understand the human element is involved, I think you should understand that it can be, depending on the people, it can be a lot to ask these people to work well together, especially if there are big personalities involved.
Yeah, I wonder if there has to be title changes, if there's going to be a power structure change, because you could say, you know what, Elliott, you're GM, but, Vrabel's going to have more than just a say in this. It's going to be a true collaboration. When it comes down to it, he's going to have to, give approval on it. If the roster doesn't end up working out, Elliott Wolf, if he's smart, is going to say, well, I don't want to be called general manager and have everyone just think that, it was ultimately my decision. If it's not going to be my decision, then no, I don't necessarily want to be called the GM, because everyone's going to be calling for my head if personnel moves don't work out that I wasn't fully on board with, but I had to do it because that's what you told me, that Vrabel and whoever else he brings in, they're really going to have final say. Or if I can be outvoted, then am I the general manager or not?
Well, it's interesting in that I think that happens to a degree this past off season. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to listen to it, but Mike Vrabel did a one-on-one with a number of different people yesterday, and one of them was with our guy, Tom Curran. And he talked a little bit about his, the early stages, obviously, of his relationship here with Elliott Wolf. And he mentioned something along the lines of Elliott Wolf not being able to really invest in personnel. And he used that word invest. It was an interesting word for him to use, but he wasn't really able to invest in personnel maybe the way that he really wanted to. And the indication was, he hasn't really been able to show what he can do. And I just wonder if there have been conversations behind the scenes, I'm guessing here, that are something along the lines of, well, we were expected to collaborate. I'm trying to do what the coaches are asking me to do in terms of picking the players that they want and need for their scheme. And, maybe I listened to the coaches a little bit too much last offseason and trying to give them what they told me they need. To some degree, what's difficult about his job is the success of the players that he picks and the success that they have is wholly dependent on how they fit in Vrabel's scheme. So Vrabel, of course, will have say. You need to really see the game the same way. And that's why I would have some concern, having not seen it to this point, about how those two will operate together. And then there's, the Ryan Cowden element is a difficult one, I think, because there have been instances in the past where things like this have happened, and the pre-existing front office is looking at the new guy saying, well, are you the head coach's spy essentially here? You're going to be looking over my shoulder every time I file a report, or every time I'm on the road, or, are you going to be up my back about one thing or another? So you're inviting a muddy situation. And when you have the opportunity to start fresh and make everything clear, I think you should take that opportunity. Now, maybe things will clarify themselves after the draft. I think we're still in a little bit of a holding pattern to see how this thing will actually shake out in the next few months, because there could be changes after the draft, as there often are in front offices across the league.
Yeah, I understand this situation is far from perfect in the front office, and no one's really sure who's going to have final say or who ultimately has power in all of this. But watching Mike Vrabel handle questions and speak to the media yesterday was a good day. It was a very good first step.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I would say it was a good day for them, and it was an expected sort of performance from Vrabel. Like, we know what he is at the microphone, not only based on his time here, but, based on what we have seen and heard from him during his time as head coach in Tennessee. And so that's one of the big benefits of having Vrabel as your coach, is that if you're looking for a culture and you're looking for standards to be set, he's going to make them very clear. He's going to get rid of entitlement in the building. You heard the word accountability a number of times yesterday. Everybody's going to have to earn it every single day. He's going to expect a lot from these guys. And there are going to be a lot of things that he does that are reminiscent of Bill, quite frankly. Some of the things word for word were things that Bill, I'm sure, said to his teams over the 8 years that he was here in New England. It doesn't matter how you get here. It's what you do once you are here. We wanted, Bill's first goal every year for his teams when he was here was win the division and compete for championships. You heard that word for word from Mike Vrabel yesterday. The whole thing about the timelines on injuries. We're not putting timelines on injuries. So I think how he interacts with players will be very different. I think it'll be similar in terms of what he does in team meetings and putting pressure on guys and asking guys questions in team meetings and really putting them on the spot. Some of that will be similar, but his ability to connect will clearly be different, because clearly they're different personalities. But when it comes to setting a standard and establishing a culture, things that to me don't require talent, those should be things that he's able to execute pretty early in his tenure here.
If you look at his career in Tennessee, when he had a good offensive coordinator, the team was good. When he didn't, they were bad. How concerned are you about the offensive coordinator pick? Defensive, he probably can handle the defense. What are you looking for in terms of offensive coordinator?
Yeah, you would think he'd be able to handle the defense for sure. Defensive coordinator will matter. There's no question. I talked to somebody in the league the other day, and they were kind of, just playing devil's advocate when it came to the Vrabel hire because they thought it was the best choice for New England. But to go back and look at that, his last year as defensive coordinator, which was in Houston before he took the head job in Tennessee, and they were 32nd. They were last in the league in a number of different categories, either last or second to last. And they dealt with injury, and, maybe that's an aberration kind of year. But his point was, just tread lightly when you're talking about Mike Vrabel being able to solve everything, and the offense obviously would be included in that conversation. So the offensive coordinator hire is huge. And my question is for Vrabel, what does he value when it comes to that job and how it impacts the young quarterback? Would you prefer somebody who has an established track record of being able to develop young quarterbacks, an established track record as a play caller at the highest level? Because if that's what you value, then you probably really like to have Josh McDaniels as your offensive coordinator. And I know there are a number of people in the league who are just assuming that will be his choice. If you value Drake May being able to really hit the ground running in year two and understanding the language and understanding the concepts and having some familiarity with what's being thrown at him based on what he did in his rookie year, then Tommy Rees, who was just in Cleveland and worked under Kevin Stefanski as Alex Van Pelt did, then maybe he's the better choice. Having just worked with Vrabel as well, obviously in Cleveland after Vrabel was there as a consultant. So I think we're going to learn a lot about, how Vrabel views development at that position. And we're going to be able to read into it quite a bit based on who he picks to be his OC. Okay.
This is a big hire. This was a hire that they, really put themselves in a position that they needed to make. They're hiring coaches while everyone else is still doing interviews. And, Jesus, the coach just got fired yesterday or didn't get a new contract yesterday. So they moved, real quickly on this. What's your faith in him being able to create a program, and how quickly does this process take? They have a ton of money to spend in free agency. Are they going to go – do you get a read on if they're going to go hog wild in free agency like they did a few years ago? What's your read on how dramatic the turnaround for this team is going to be?
I think there's going to be a lot of roster turnover. And so, does hog wild mean, you're going to spend on 4 or 5 guys and pay them near the top of the league at their positions? Maybe not, because he might be looking at his roster and saying, we need 30 new players.
Right.
I think for him to be able to point out yesterday a couple things. Number one, we've got a rid entitlement from the building. Tells me that he senses some of that based on what he's seen and heard from the Patriots over the course of the last year. And I wouldn't disagree with him, by the way, as somebody who's been in that locker room quite a bit. But number two, how do you get rid of it other than getting rid of those players? I guess you could try to coach it out of them. But, once that's sort of been established in a person, these guys are all grown adults. I'm not sure, how much power he really has in that regard. The other thing is, he's not even sure, he said yesterday, that they're good enough to take advantage of bad football. Well, if you're trying to get rid of bad football, how many bad football players do you need to get out of the building? And so I think there could be really significant turnover. I do think there is one example, though, that we're watching play right now. They just won a game on Sunday night. One example of if you get it right at a handful of positions, you don't have to completely turn the roster over and have success. And it's in Washington. And obviously, quarterback, they got a new coach who's, again, he's one of these culture builder types. He's not an offensive whiz. He's not an offensive play caller head coach. They got it right on the offensive line at a couple of different spots, although that was not an elite unit this year by any stretch, but they got it right at places they really needed to get it right. And now they're into the divisional round. And so I don't think this is an impossible turnaround, but I do think he's probably looking at his roster and saying, we need a lot of new pieces here. We have a lot of work to do.
We talked about that during the season too, Phil. You wondered how much the Patriots and the front office and the owners were looking at what was going on with the Commanders and thinking, why are they doing that and we're not? Because very similar situations with a new coach and a new quarterback, and it really is a fine line. I've got myself convinced and been saying, this is going to be, like years and years to, get back to where you need to be. But if they had hit on a couple of more positions or figured out a way to do just a couple of things differently, and maybe the coach included, I'm not saying they'd be onto the divisional round, but it certainly would have been better than another 4-win season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the problem for the Patriots is the talent at the premium positions is really lacking. And again, Washington isn't perfect, but they do have Terry McLaurin, and they had him like up and ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't a rookie. He wasn't having to grow with the young quarterback. They got an offensive lineman in Brandon Coleman, who I believe was selected one pick before Caden Wallace in the third round, who ended up starting and playing a ton of snaps for them and being serviceable. And so, you know, that's really, you know, that's not it. That's not all it was. But those are big reasons for why they're able to make a leap, and the Patriots aren't. I mean, they're rookie quarterback too. I know we all look at both Drake May and Jaden Daniels as being success stories, but you know, Jaden Daniels started 55 games. Drake May started 26 in college, and so you know, Daniels was able to hit the ground running. He was working with an offensive coordinator who had a lot of experience in college, and so they were able to run a lot of college concepts and have a lot of success with those in Washington this year. That was really the opposite of what Drake May's experience was with Alex Van Pelt, who's running sort of an old school West Coast scheme. And so it took a little longer for May, obviously. He didn't start until week 6 to you know, get his feet wet as a starting quarterback. So there are some significant differences there. I do think, though, it's a sign of, hey, if you get the right receiver in free agency, if you get the right tackle in the draft, you know, like, those things could go a long way. And you combine that with Vrabel's addition, now maybe you're winning some of those one-score games that you lost this year. I think they had 8 of them in all. And so, you know, you could not – I'm not saying you're going to go to the divisional round next year, but to me, you really should be eyeing being in contention for a playoff spot by the end of next year. I'm trying to manage expectations. Like 9 wins, like we were talking about on TV last night, that feels like a little strong to me, but can you just be in the mix? Yeah. In December and January, that I think is okay to expect.
Asking a lot in January. I would, if I
how about meaningful games in December?
See, I think that's too much.
December 2nd.
I think that if you're in the mix after Thanksgiving, like right after Thanksgiving, that's
there's
enough.
a path. There's a path to make the playoffs. If these 7 teams lose, I know there are 2 games under 500, but. Yeah,
well, I mean,
that
Cincinnati
to me will be successful.
Yeah, like Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati ended up winning 9 games, but Cincinnati, you know, was in the mix. They needed a lot of things to happen. Miami was in the mix. Maybe like a similar season to what Miami had this year.
I think anything
if
more.
If you're 500, you're in the mix, right? Like
exactly.
You know, so I think that's fair expectation.
I think
I think so too.
8 and 9 will be a wildly successful season.
Well,
for this
it would be,
next
and
year.
they would be in the playoff mix until, you know, the last couple weeks of the season. I think that's. I think that's all you can really ask for with this team. And it gives you something to root for. Believe me, when the season's over, as you saw, the last couple of years, when the season's over in October, it's a grind. All right, Phil, go do your secret mission over there at Gillette.
Interesting.
And everyone watch him on NBC Sports after 10. No, everyone watch him on NBC Sports. Thank you, Phil. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. There you go. The great Phil Perry. All right, when we come back, we can get further into this Skip Bayless situation, as he did one of the dumber things you'll ever see on the most exciting YouTube show in the history of YouTube. We will be back in just a moment. We are Toucher and Hardy, and this is Taxi Cab by Souls of Mischief, which was never allowed to be released because the sample from Taxi was never cleared. And everyone asks every time we play this, so I give you the information.
Thank you.
If you're listening on podcast or on YouTube, whatever, now you have your information. Taxi Cab by Souls of Mischief, never released, never had the sample cleared. And there you go. But you can watch us on YouTube, and the reason I mentioned YouTube is Skip Bayless is being sued. There's a big lawsuit by a woman that was a hairdresser at Fox Sports for many, many years. She says she was fired unfairly, and among her allegations are this woman, this Joy woman, who I've never heard of, was having sex with, like, the president of the company, and she was having sex with this guy that she brought in. She was having sex with everyone, and we went over it before, but Jason Whitlock stayed away from her because she would have fallen into his big, enormous arms, in his enormous belly, had she been given the opportunity. But Skip Bayless is in his 70s, all right? He's been accused of offering someone $1.5 million. Now, if I'm on a jury, I'm not positive the $1.5 million is going to fly with me. A sincere offer for $1.5 million to sleep with someone, that's awfully high. I mean, look at how much. Who is the governor of New York that was having sex with the prostitutes?
Anthony Weiner?
No. He was
Cuomo?
just no.
Was it Weiner?
No, Weiner was the guy that was sending text messages and emails exposing himself to people, having Weiner's. There was the guy. He was the governor of New York was actually busting these sex traffic, or it might have been mayor of New York. Was busting these prostitution things. He made it like a big thing to bust these prostitution operations, and then he got caught with a prostitute.
Are you thinking of Elliot Spitzer?
I'm thinking of Elliot Spitzer.
DA.
Okay.
Ryan gets credit for that. He came
I thought it was Anthony Weiner.
Was he just the DA?
I think he was some sort of some city attorney, I think.
No, he was bigger than that.
Yeah, but you're right, though.
He was the governor of New York from 2007 until he resigned in 2008.
Yeah. If he was probably the DA, but if he was just the DA, this wouldn't have been a national story.
I'm probably thinking he also, you know what? I'm thinking of DA because when he was DA, he was
right?
going hard on the he was going hard on the feet. No, he was going hard on the payola. Remember, he was the big payola guy.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So anyway,
screwed things up for all of us.
So like $1.5 million. That's a lot of money to have sex with someone, and that doesn't seem like. I don't know how you would even do that. If you write a check to someone for $1.5 million and they put it in their bank account, there's going to be tax questions. You get flagged, baby. I mean, you can't just put a cashier's check for $1.5 million. You're going to get put in a suitcase and like hand it to her. How are you going to get $1.5 million out of the bank? I mean, he's not running a cash operation here. $1.5 million. We talked about this earlier. $10,000. Then I'm like, ooh, wow, that's pretty bold of him to offer you money to have sex. $1.5 million. I don't know. So anyway,
Celebrity net worth has Skip Bayless at what? Would you guess?
$40 million.
For whatever, how much credibility you want to give it.
$40 million.
I'll say half that.
Very good, Walk. $17 million.
Okay. I was thinking of my own net worth.
Sure.
Wink. And so here's the deal. So instead of, it's wrong. I've seen it. So instead of, because I wonder what girls Google before I go out with them. So instead of just retiring, not because of the lawsuit, but because he's old, he's in his 70s and, he's not with anyone anymore, or trying to get another job in legitimate media, he has decided to create his own show and let them introduce it.
Welcome to Skip versus Ernestine. This is round 6. Welcome to the hottest new show going right now. We do fight. We make up.
Yeah, so he is doing a show with his wife, whose name is Ernestine.
Mm-hmm.
And fear not, you are correct. She is not young. Her name is Ernestine and is reflective of the times that she was born. Irma, Ernestine, these
Ernestine
things.
Scalfani.
Mm-hmm. Yes. She's a hot-blooded Italian lady. And for some reason, Skip Bayless has put her on her show. And I believe this predates the lawsuit.
We do somehow love each other.
We do.
I think more than ever.
Could be.
That's not see-through, and she doesn't seem totally on board with that. He goes, we love each other more than ever.
Could be.
That doesn't sound like a resounding. What do they say in Seinfeld, the lady with the bad ear? When he says, I love you, and she says, I'm hungry, let's get something to eat. It's like, I think we love each other more than ever. Could be, again. I don't know. If you weren't offering all our money up to have sex with this hairdresser lady, I mean, you're offering up conceivably, a fifth of our income.
10% of our net worth.
Yeah, just to, 10, I should say net worth, just to sleep with this woman.
And now we bring all of the above out here on camera for all the world to see with our 8-year-old Maltese Hazel refereeing. And by the way, Hazel, she is my good luck charm, as we're about to get into.
Until your game loses, and then she's not good luck.
So you know that when she says until your game loses, that she is indeed on top of everything that's going on in the sports world.
Could be.
Yeah.
She could be.
So anyway, getting sued, offering a woman $1.5 million, lingering hugs, kisses on the cheek, all these things he's been accused of. And here we go.
Okay, now it is time for questions. Let's start with the email questions. This is from Joseph from Philadelphia. What is the most difficult hardship you encountered together, and did it change your relationship?
Okay.
This is a good show.
Now all of a sudden things got very, very, very interesting. So this moron goes to the most terrible thing in the entire planet, Twitter, that exists just for people to get it out of their system. Never, ever, ever has there been a thread of comments on Twitter that was positive towards someone. It's just, it exists for people to yell and to contradict themselves and all these things. Would you like to hear some of the tweets that Skip Bayless got when he solicited for them on Twitter?
Sure, I would.
It's going to be about the lawsuit. Be ready. Maybe he will finally be notified. My question is, did you start off with 1.5 or did you have to gradually negotiate to that point? Warm regards.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
I like that.
Maybe you started at a more reasonable $10,000. No, you're 73 years old. Gross. Ew, no. How about 50? All right, 100 million. 1.5.
Yeah, it's an auction. What things would you be willing to spend $1.5 million for? Timmy, all the way from San Antonio, Texas, is asking, why did you choose 1.5 million as the number? Again, Skip Bayless asked for questions. This guy says, what is Ernestine's opinion on you offering $1.5 million for sex? Another good question, was the $1.5 million going to be paid in cash, check, or Venmo? So these are all questions that are being asked. What is the biggest hardship of your relationship? Well, I'd imagine the lawsuit that is going on right now. And do you know this, Hardy? Because John does. Do you know about there was an article about Skip Bayless probably about 10, 12 years ago about his life, his monk life. He lived in New York City, but he had a place in Bristol. He would spend like Sunday through Thursday in Bristol. And on Sundays, he would get Chinese food, chicken and broccoli with nothing on it. He would put it all in his refrigerator. Monastic life. He would just eat
There were
that.
sandwiches that he would buy and store for certain meals each week, if I remember right.
You don't remember right. He would get chicken and broccoli, as I just said, with nothing on it. And that would be his meal.
There were no sandwiches, Wallach.
Damn it.
No, sandwiches have carbs. And then he would...
That's on me. I'm sorry.
And have you seen his body?
Yeah, he would work out for hours at a time and then prep for his show for an insane amount of time.
Yeah, like he was working out, eating chicken and broccoli, and working on his show. Like in order to get an hour and a half of hot takes, he had to spend 12 hours, 14 hours a day just going after it.
And he got pissed off. I remember this part of it, that he would show up, 2.5 hours before the show. Stephen A. Smith, who was hosting with him at the time, would breeze in about 15 minutes before the lights went on. And Stephen A. would make more money than him. And he would wonder why the hell this is.
Yeah, because one guy's talented and one guy's not.
Exactly
That's what had happened. Stephen A. Smith has the ability to entertain on television, and Skip Bayless doesn't. That's the... Skip Bayless, in order to keep up with the talented guy, has to do all this work. It's ridiculous.
Could be.
That's right. So here is the question.
With the email questions, this is from Joseph from Philadelphia. What is the most difficult hardship you encountered together, and did it change your relationship?
Oh, that's without even thinking. Losing my mother.
Okay. Now, losing your mother is a very, very hard thing, and fortunately, I have not experienced that yet. But I'm going to guess it did not test your relationship to the levels of the $1.5 million that were offered allegedly for sex.
Thank you.
Or the fact that you two are been degraded to doing a YouTube show together. And by the way, I can see why this is the number one show on YouTube, given that Ernestine's mother dying is a topic. And you got to figure if they have children, she's definitely a grandma. I mean, she's of age where she could have teen grandkids.
Oh, that's without even thinking. Losing my mother. That was beyond I could even. It's just something. Some people don't have good relationships with their parents. I wasn't that close with my father, but my mother to me was the world.
This is the number one show on YouTube.
Welcome to the hottest new show going right now.
Could be. That was my mother. My mother could understand anything I could say to her. Mom, sex-wise. Oh, God, do I have to hear this? Just shut up. Just listen to this. And she'd go, okay, what's the problem? And my mother had the answer for everything.
She did. Okay.
Well, the problem was
my husband offered $1.5 million to a coworker to have sex with him.
Yeah, he's got no time for me. He's too busy buying whores.
She's got a big pair of cans.
Oh, Jason, you had the discipline to stay away. Pat, go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to ruin Skip Bayless for all of you. You know, he sounds exactly like Michael Scott from The Office. Just close your eyes and listen to him talk about this, and then think about Michael Scott going to a $1.5 million offer.
Okay, that will not ruin it for me, but now I want to try it.
But it is.
Just do it. Just close your eyes and enjoy the ride. Love you guys. Bye.
It's like, so he is like Michael Scott in that Michael Scott found out there was a guy in the office that had been to jail, so he became Prison Mike in maybe the greatest episode of The Office. Bayless knows that there's a $1.5 million thing that he offered a woman, allegedly, so he decides to do a YouTube show with his wife and solicit for questions. This is the Prison Mike of sports radio.
This is Michael Scott making the mixtape for Holly.
Yes.
5 minutes after, the inappropriate move in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Don from North Carolina.
That was after she got done talking about her mother dying. That was his response.
This is when after he offered the $1.5 million and she said no. Back to the drawing board.
Okay. Don from North Carolina asks, Skip, what does Ernestine do to get you to disconnect from sports? Well, really nothing except.
That's like a newlywed question. That's kind of like the newlywed game.
We'd score because we'd both say
said
nothing? Okay.
Yeah, we would lift up and go nothing.
Maybe, but you're driving him into the arms of another woman.
Yeah, I do hear the Michael Scott thing a little bit.
Yeah. All right. She's driving him into the arms of another woman.
Okay.
His mistress is sports. And the hairdresser lady he offered $1.5 million to sleep with.
She's willing to let people enjoy those big cans.
Yes, but Jason Whitlock had the discipline to keep his 400-pound ass away.
Keep your distance.
Right. Or he would have been next in her web of sex.
I know what I'm capable of.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's capable of, succumbing to all these women. I mean, when you're walking down the street and everyone's a potential mate, like you could literally have anyone with just a wave of your hand.
That peanut butter skin
like
with that big rack.
Yeah, it's like Sinatra in 1955 in the streets of New York. He's just walking around fighting it off with his stick. Whitlock's having his 10th pizza of the day, telling his handler, go tell that lady over there Whitlock wants to sit with her.
She's willing to let people enjoy those big cans.
Could be.
Very good. All right. The Cowboys, they all of a sudden have a coaching vacancy, and there is some hot rumors going around about some people we know and also some people that played for the organization. We'll talk about that here, the headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots officially introduced Mike Vrabel as their 16th ever head coach yesterday. He added after he was introduced, there's nothing concrete in regards to his new staff, but Bert Breer is reporting that he is indeed bringing in his former interim GM in Tennessee, Ryan Cowden. He is joining the Patriots as Elliott Wolf's second in command. Dallas Cowboys looking for a new head coach after announcing late yesterday Mike McCarthy would not be back. Jerry Jones immediately spoke to Deion Sanders about the job. The LA Rams beat Minnesota 27-9 in Arizona last night. They'll visit Philadelphia in the next round of the playoffs on Sunday. And it'll be the Bruins and Tampa Bay Lightning at TD Garden tonight. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Village Automotive. Village Auto is looking for A technicians to join their team. It's time to put your skills to work where they're truly valued. Visit villageautomotive.com/careers to grow your career and your paycheck today. That's villageautomotive.com/careers. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9 o'clock.
people are confused about. For me, it's not really complicated. It's kind of three big reasons. Obviously, Robert Kraft wanted to keep Wolf, so he asked Vrabel to collaborate with him. That's why every time Vrabel speaks, he forces Elliot Wolf's name into the conversation. It's like blink twice if HR's in the room. That's how egregious it is. The second reason is the Rooney Rule. If they let him go, Wolf, before the draft, they're going to have to spend a bunch of the offseason interviewing coaches that they don't want to when Brian Cowherd's their guy. So it's a way to avoid having to do that whole process in a sham. And then the third, which would be kind of something.
Wait. The Rooney Rule applies to GMs? I don't think the Rooney Rule applies to GMs.
You have to. I believe when you have somebody in place and you let them go in the middle of a season, you have to go through the process. And they already have Ryan Cowherd.
Okay.
I believe so.
Senior
And
football operation
reason,
jobs, head coaching coordinators and senior football operations.
Interesting.
It
okay,
does,
very good.
apply. I think the call is
yeah.
right.
So like, I just wouldn't want to deal with that red tape. So and you wait to do that until after the draft type thing. And then the third thing, which I find the most value in, is you literally have a scapegoat and a fall guy. So you keep him on the staff, even though Ryan Cowherd's actually like running personnel and making the decisions. And whether you keep Wolf for a year or 2 years, if you do badly, you just get to say, hey, I didn't pick the personnel. Wolf was in charge, not me. So like, I find a ton of value in that, where it's like you have the guy, Cowherd, actually making the decisions like you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Cowden, sorry. And you basically can say, hey, if the Patriots suck in the next year or two and they keep Wolf, you're like, hey, I didn't make personnel changes and decisions, and then they just let him go. So that's my take on it and why he's still there.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't want to go through also the preparation for the draft and that you're making this, into the offseason already.
You got the Senior Bowl coming up. You got a bunch of all-star games that you have a good opportunity for the week before to take a look at all these prospects.
But that being said, if I had a team, I'd fire the GM before the draft if I was going to fire the GM, because obviously you can't just move out the entire front office. They've done all the work for the draft, but I mean, if you bring in Cowden's been working. I mean, he's been working. I mean, he had to get permission from the Giants to take this job.
And again, Tennessee and the Raiders just fired their GM within the last week.
Right. So I mean, you have to look. Idzik did the Jets draft and then was fired right after the draft, and it was a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why. So I would, if they really intended Elliot Wolf not to have any power, I have no idea why you would keep him on through the draft. None. I think it's completely counterintuitive. I don't see any logic in keeping him on through the draft. The fall guy thing is great, and maybe that's how Vrabel looks at it, that this is maybe you tell Cowden, like, look, it's not like Cowden. I mean, he's interviewed for general manager positions before, but
he's the interim GM of the Titans.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and to great success. And so, I wouldn't be so hot on this guy, by the way.
But the only reason people are hot on this guy is because he's Vrabel's hand-picked guy, and Vrabel's going to have a lot of say.
And Vrabel's never built a team.
No,
and neither has Cowden.
But this is the direction it's going. And whether you're hot on this guy or not hot on this guy, this is the direction it's going.
My point is that there is a lot of pontificating about how much Wolf sucks, and the evidence of that, I suppose, is the draft.
Yes.
And not his free agency, but the draft. So great, he sucks. And then everyone gets all like, oh, well, Cowden. I mean, when Cowden comes in, Cowden's going to do something. And my point to that is, how do you know? What's he done before? He's been the assistant to general managers in Carolina. I mean, what did they do? And then, the dreadful Giants he was with, and what did they do?
Well, the other part of it is,
I know they drafted fairly well.
Wolf is the lack of his building of the offensive line. His one major addition, Chukwuekorfor, lasted a quarter of the season and was gone.
What I'm saying, John, is I can understand not liking Elliot Wolf. My point is fine. There's evidence that you don't like Elliott Wolf and you want him gone. That's not what I'm giving you that. My point is everyone's saying, well, this Cowden. Well, then you bring in Cowden. Like all of a sudden they're experts on Ryan Cowden. They had never heard the name. They had known who he was 4 years ago, 4 months ago. You don't know who this guy is. He could come in and be even dumber. There's guys, I'm telling you, there's guys that would have traded that third pick. And if 75% of our listeners, to piss Hardy off, had that pick, they would have traded down too. And I can tell you this, half the people on this station would have traded that pick. That is true. Whole shows. I think one person was talking about how misguided I was, how foolish I was for the idea of taking a quarterback and taking the quarterback first. That never works, and then they gave a bunch of examples.
I have no doubt that there was one person who called you foolish, but again, you're just pulling figures out of your head that half of the people who work on this station wanted them to trade out of that pick and not take a quarterback when they desperately needed a quarterback.
No, but I think there's some truth. I don't know about
I'm not making it up.
But I heard the same thing he heard, and remember the reasoning for it. Oh, you just get a quarterback next year. You know what? Get the wide receiver this year. You know what? You're going to finish badly. Get the quarterback. Oh, yeah? Take a look at the quarterbacks this year that are available to you with the draft. Are any of them as good as a quarterback last year?
You might be able to. I mean, again, this all is, like projecting and predicting. But who's to say it wouldn't have worked out to go and get a quarterback, not necessarily draft one this year, right? But if Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy becomes available or something like this year, or even if you had gotten somebody like that last
year. That's asinine, Hardy.
Based on the last 2 weeks, you think people would be calling in saying, we want Sam Darnold?
I'm saying if things start to shuffle around and you can acquire a quarterback in another way, if you had say traded out or drafted someone else and you hit on, let's say, a receiver and an offensive lineman, or even two, if you had drafted better. We were just talking about somebody that they picked up in the third round with Washington, right? If you had picked on hit on 2 or 3 players in the draft last year as opposed to one, you hit on one at the biggest position, and that's what I wanted you to do. And then you table the quarterback until this year and figure something out for this year. 2 or 3 years down the road, you arrive at the same place.
No, you absolutely do not. And Drake may, by the way, there's teams with all kinds of talent at skill positions, no quarterback, that are picking in the top 10.
Yeah. And you're picking in the top 10 too with a very talented quarterback.
Right. Oh, come on, Hardy. To build around. If they would have traded down and Drake May had this season for another team, Elliott Wolf would be fired for sure. There's no excuse for that. You can't create a world where taking Drake May at 3 was the wrong decision.
No, Drake May was. This gets back to my original point, though. Drake May being selected 3rd overall was the right decision, and it wasn't that tough to come to that conclusion.
Well,
despite the fact that 75% of that, as again, the number that you pull out of nowhere, who called this radio station wanted them to do it. Oh, the same people who argue about the length of Wicked on our YouTube feed?
Yes.
Yeah, those are the people that Elliott Wolf should be listening to, and credit to him for not listening to them.
I am saying the lunatics that talk about
they're lunatics.
Yes, they're lunatics. I'm not even saying. I don't know why you're taking such offense to this. Our listeners were very vocal about how stupid we were for wanting them to take Drake May at 3. That's all I'm saying. And yes, the majority of them, in my recollection to this show, did that. Dan Lifshatz said they shouldn't take a quarterback, if you want to name.
Okay, there's Dan Lifshatz.
So he went on and pontificated on how they shouldn't take a quarterback and how stupid it would be to take a quarterback. That argument was held on. My point is this: you're really putting me to the fire based on percentages. I'm just throwing numbers out there. Let's just say this, if it makes you more comfortable.
It's part of your sickness that you seek out the people who disagree with you.
Fair enough. That is true. But certainly a lot of the fan base wanted that, and there was hours and hours and Oh, my God. Oh, Barth and Felger were on the air talking about how to trade down and take Michael Penix, trade down and do this. I don't like Drake May. Drake May came from a bad system. Drake May was at North Carolina. He didn't have any pressure. I remember it all.
Yes.
I remember sitting in my car and everyone talking about not taking Drake May. And I understand you think they're all lunatics, but they were saying it.
You attach yourself to the people who contradict you.
Yes.
And those are the ones that you remember.
Yes.
You don't remember the support. You don't remember the legions of people and this, I would say, the silent majority who don't feel compelled to call up and say,
but
yes,
I'm not talking about the silent majority. I'm talking about our genius listeners that want Elliott Wolf. My point is this. Everyone that wants Elliott Wolf fired are the same geniuses that didn't want to take Drake May. That's my point.
And I'm saying it's okay to fire Elliott Wolf because taking Drake May at 3rd overall was not this bold move. It was what everyone, I feel, with a sane read on the situation, thought he should do. And you say 75%. I say it's way less than that. The majority of people who say Patriots are going to draft a quarterback at 3rd overall because, of course, they are, and that's what they end up doing, and now you want him to keep his job because he did it? That's not enough.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying the people that want him fired are the same people that wanted them not to take May. That's what I'm saying, and I'm standing by that, and John's got my back on that.
There are a lot of people.
All right, we have to break. We are so late.
You're just as sick as he is.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
We got...
And the Bruins had last night off. They face Tampa Bay for the second time in a week tonight at TD Garden. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines are proudly brought to you by Rodenheiser Home Services and their expert remodel team. Schedule a free consultation today to redefine your space. Rodenheiser.com/remodel. Rodenheiser Home Services. Nice people, great service since 1928. I'm John Wallach of Boston Tone for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
To us, Boston pride runs deep.
I'm a Bostonian!
This is Boston's home for sports.
Bow, bow, bow!
98.5 The Sports Hub.
It's called Rising and Grinding.
Start your
Got
day.
your finger on the pulse, Fred. Seldom right and never wrong.
Right here. Is that Dutcher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
His impact, because of his work ethic and his competitive drive and his leadership skills, made it very special those 4 years. And those personal characteristics also made him a very high-performing coach.
Robert Kraft, the king of the press conference. Many, many press conferences for Robert Kraft of late. I'm sure he would like to not have to talk to anyone for a long time.
And he's done a lot of talking to everyone recently. I think
he's probably like, it was. I want to be shown in the box. I don't want to be in front of the media so much anymore.
Has he aged a little bit over the last year? It looked that way to me yesterday.
Well, the thing is that he's super old. I mean, he's 83.
No, but it was. I looked and I was like, oh my.
I'm still pissed that Mike Greenberg said that he brought up Vrabel's age as like a thing against him, and he's 49.
How old are you turning this week?
50, which I don't like. It's the first birthday I've ever had where I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I struggled a little bit with 50. That's far in the
But that
rearview
was so
mirror
long
now.
ago. What do you care anymore?
I've gotten over it by now.
It's like saying, oh, I was all pissed off when Lucky Lindy made it across. I had bet against him.
I voted for Truman, but, you know.
Despite all the, like, you know, health issues and things that have happened, I never have really thought about dying until now. I don't got 50 more of these left. I've seen more sunsets than I'm going to see, my friends. That's...
You're over the top of the mountain, man. It's all downhill from here.
And now I'm like, when my kids get old, I'm going to be alone. I'm having all these thoughts.
The clock's running. Milo's going to be in college before you know it.
Milo goes to college, as a matter of fact. The Great Descendants album. But
Does this have anything to do with the fact that the game that I proposed many years ago had your life expectancy at 50 years?
No, because that was post-rehab, I believe, or something like that. Or maybe it was right before rehab. I got that bit. That bit was fun. Turning 50 is not so fun.
That was before rehab.
And I have people in my life going like, you're killing it, dude. Like, you've never been better. Like, they're really, like, I appreciate it very much. Not you two so much. But I have people in my life that are like, you know, they know this is getting to me. And they're trying to cheer me up. I've had many thoughts. I've had thoughts that I will not be desirable to women as I get older, and that
also a ship that sailed a long time ago.
And so if it's this bad now, imagine what it's going to be like as every year passes, and then and ultimately my kids will move away, and I will be alone. That is a fact that is occurring to me a lot. So if you want to come at me on social media, I'm just opening myself up. This is the truth. So if you really want to get after me on social media, this is the way to do it.
It's always going to be around another 4 years. You're fine.
I spend so much time with them, though.
Yeah.
Like so much time with them. They dominate my life to such a degree, which I appreciate. When that's over, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like to go out with women, I only have some weeks a day. One day I can do it.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, at most 2. So I'm, you know, this is the thing is that I'm, you know, I'm very, very close to being alone.
I can empathize with you, Fred, because you and I obviously have a very similar situation, and also very similar in the way that we parent. But my kids are a little bit older than yours, and even though my oldest kid still lives at home, he's in college. Just he's not around as much, and it definitely has an effect on the psyche.
Well, that's not nice of you to say. That
Yeah,
you're double down. You should have said that life
helpful.
is great.
No, because I'm gonna go the opposite direction and say feel weird about this, feel upset about it. It's natural to feel that way. Work through it. Don't run from it. Lean into it. All of a sudden, I sound like Dan Roach here, trying to be,
He's
positive
giving
through the negative.
He is giving sound advice. One is to work through emotion.
Yeah.
Not hide from it. Not try to hold it down. One is to work. Emotion is to live.
Hey, look, and I'm
to
here
have pain means that you have loved.
It's true.
But these are the thoughts that go through
You
my
have
head.
an entire presidential administration remaining with your children. It's a long time.
Yes, but
Fred, you
there's
gotta
that,
take the
and
good
then
with the bad. Fred, to live is to fly low and high. You know, so shake those dust off your wings, Wallach, and the sleep out of your eye.
That's beautiful. Did you write that?
No.
It's from that book that
A.J.
Brown was reading on the sideline.
Who's the
Dr.
Texas
Seuss.
singer-songwriter who drank himself to death?
Oh, that one.
Zevon.
No, not
Zevon
Warren
didn't drink himself to
Zevon.
death. He had cancer. He was
that's
sober.
right, yeah.
It's got a Z in his name, though. Not Van Zandt.
Is it Towns Van Zandt?
Towns Van Zandt. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Of
so
course, it's a
that
country guy, Hardy.
so that's the thoughts that are going through my head is on Thursday. And usually I'm giving you my birthday because I won praise on my birthday. I'm giving you my birthday this year. I assure you, I swear on everything holy that I am giving you my birthday because it is affecting me, and not much has affected me. This is something is lingering in my brain. And then I think maybe I'd want to be alone. So I don't know.
No,
There's benefits to that.
Because I was an only child, I think that maybe I'm more comfortable. As I walked the dog in the woods yesterday, these are the thoughts that were coming to me.
Yes.
And I can't if you want to know the truth, I don't know if I can differentiate real thought from just mindless monkey brain.
Yeah,
so I don't know what the hell I'm
that's
thinking.
That's a dangerous place to be, alone with your dog in the woods when you're working through something like this. This is not.
I disagree, John. That's the perfect place to be.
You don't even like dogs, 12. Shut
But I
up.
love the
Seriously.
woods.
Why
I
don't you
love
like
the woods.
dogs?
Well, you don't like dogs?
I'm not a big dog guy. I'm a cat guy.
Man.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like Jay Stu.
Just dropped a little bit.
Like kitty litter Jay Stu.
Yeah, they're fun to drop. 9 lives my eye.
Factually incorrect.
One done. You're one and done. You ain't got 9 lives. So I was going to talk about Vrabel. Chad, I'll take your phone call in the next break, but that was what was going on with me.
Can we do Dallas here? Can we do Jerry?
No,
and
let's save that for
Dion?
tomorrow.
All right.
We got breaks to fill. Unless obviously if you guys want
Well,
to do it.
yeah,
I'll
we
do
can
it
talk
now,
about
but-
it. We can talk about it. It's on TV right now. So Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy met. McCarthy, everyone I hear, McCarthy's a good coach. And McCarthy actually, I think, did a pretty good job this year, given everyone played hard. It seemed like he had that team together despite everything that was going on.
He's done a pretty good job in totality. You look at his win-loss record and just, the team plays well, just not in the playoffs.
Right. And when I look at coaches as a whole, I'm going to give a percentage here, but I think it's right. 90 to 95% of coaches are horrible.
Hardy, you want to judge him on that? Is it 90 to 95%, or is it less?
Let's go through not all the Patriot coaches, but is this the 18th Patriot coach? Say Vrabel's
16th.
16th. Thank you. It's the 16th Patriot coach. How many Patriot coaches have been good? Belichick, give it to what's his face?
Ray Berry for making the Super Bowl.
Yeah, give it to Berry for making the Super Bowl. Parcells.
There was a guy in the 70s that was good. Less than half. Less than half.
I thought you were going to do like current NFL head coaches.
Well, then we can do current that are not good. Go ahead.
All right, we'll just go alphabetically through the league. Jonathan Gannon with the Cardinals.
I don't know. He's not good.
Raheem Morris with Atlanta.
No.
Ravens, John Harbaugh.
He's great.
Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott.
He's good.
Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales.
That remains to be seen.
Bengals, Zach Taylor.
Not good.
Browns, Kevin Stefanski.
2-time coach of the year. That's a disaster. I can't judge him. Neutral.
Broncos, Sean Payton.
Yes.
He's good.
He is good.
Lions, Dan Campbell.
Good.
Yeah.
Packers, Matt LaFleur.
Good.
D'Amico Ryans with the Texans.
Good.
Fine.
Andy Reid. The other Harbaugh with Chargers,
He's good.
Jim. Rams, Sean McVay.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Dolphins, Mike McDaniel.
Had a hard time with the injuries this year. Miami really fell on their face in the second half.
Vikings, Kevin O'Connell.
I guess he's good.
Vrabel, Brian Daboll, Giants.
I'm going to say he's not a good coach.
Nick Sirianni. Eagles fans will tell you no, but
Yeah,
I think he's a pretty good coach.
All right, so my point is this.
But they're mostly good.
Or indifferent.
Mike Tomlin, Kyle Shanahan.
There's debate on Shanahan and Tomlin in terms of like the fan bases. Like the thing is this: is
Dan
that
Quinn, mostly good.
You think most of the NFL coaches are good coaches?
We just went through the exercise. We just rattled off the list. More than half we
yeah,
said
but
were
there's
good
also
coaches.
8 job openings, so you've neglected to name them. I mean, there's 8 out of 32 jobs that are open.
I can't name someone who isn't there.
On average, a quarter of the teams are looking for new head coaches.
You are something else. You really
You're on fire, man.
You are really into like nailing down the absolute number. My point is this.
Because your original point was 95% of NFL head coaches suck.
Fred.
Don't you start. There's only so much.
6 to 8 coaches a year probably get fired.
Yeah.
Okay?
That sounds right.
Out of 32.
I'll check it, but go ahead.
Please do. Double down on that. And then out of the ones that remain, let's just say 5 are on the fence that we just did. So every year, half the coaches are either fired or on the verge of being fired. Extrapolate that through the years and know that there's Belichick's and Reid that hang out and Tomlin's that are and Harbaugh's that are around forever. Let's do this. There are 4 coaches in the league. Sean Payton hasn't been around forever, though. He's had a little bit of success. He's one bad year and one good year in Denver. But Sean Payton's a good coach, probably. But so you take the 4 guys that have been with their teams forever.
Yeah.
The point is this: is that the chance of you getting a guy that's going to be with your team for a decade is almost none, right? So how many guys are like Mike McCarthy? We're giving some dudes credit for winning a Super Bowl.
Fair enough.
And if he won a Super Bowl, my point is this. I'm getting bogged down with maybe too many numbers, but have a statistician do it. I'm sure it's fairly high. Your chances of nailing a home run like Belichick are almost infinitesimal.
Fair enough. So McCarthy is in the top half. He's no longer he's out because he didn't do well in the playoffs, and Jerry Jones just decided to let his contract lapse.
And so my point is this:
by the way, he's going to interview for a job tomorrow.
Yeah, the Saints and Chicago.
Chicago's first, and then New Orleans.
And I bet you he gets a job. And the thing is that the talk is bringing in Deion Sanders or Bill Belichick. And if Belichick leaves, I really do stand by this. That makes him a bad person. NIL, this, that, or the third. If he went and actively recruited kids the minute he got that job and got him to transfer, sign with UNC, and then he turns around, they bring some of these kids in early.
Fred, I don't care if he didn't get one person to change or sign. If he takes the job and they do that whole charade of the press conference, and my first words were, beat Duke. And all that nonsense, and he turns around and bolts for any job. I don't care if it's
an
the
elaborate
Cowboys.
ruse to get his son the head coaching job.
That makes him just an awful move. But I think the more interesting thing about the Cowboys opening is what Troy Aikman had to say about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's hear Aikman, who goes about who could have the job and what they're looking at. But this was interesting.
As far as the coveted job, I don't know that that's accurate. I mean, I do think the Cowboys are obviously a high-profile team. Whoever is covered or whoever is head coach of that team is certainly going to draw a lot of attention. But I think most football people that take over as a head coach, they want to do it on their terms.
That's fair.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, I don't think that he can get a lead coaching candidate. And the thing is that if Belichick, if character means nothing to you and it's just business, we had Phil Perry who's playing devil's advocate. If it's just business, then there's just no standard. Then money is everything. We've become a society where nothing matters. The measure of man is completely the amount of money or some record that he gets. It means way more than like any other character thing. And I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. And your other option is Deion Sanders.
Deion, he spoke to Adam Schefter last night, and it doesn't look like he's coming.
Yeah, so they're going to end up. They got rid of Mike McCarthy to bring in someone who's not as good as Mike McCarthy.
It's going to be his offensive coordinator, Kellen
Moore.
Yeah. Apparently, he is the new leader because he's there. He wasn't going to get a head coaching job anywhere else. Jerry could just say, okay, why don't you move over? Kellen Moore's not in a position to negotiate. He's not in a position of any power whatsoever. He'll go like Dave Campo did or like any of the other nobodies they brought in before and after Parcells. Okay, I don't have any other options.
And that makes him a bad owner.
You, fine.
And that makes him a bad owner. If that's why he's making decisions, that makes him a bad owner. And if you're rooting for that team, it's very difficult to get behind something that's literally just a toy at the whims of whoever's in charge.
That's the way it's always been. But
he got Jimmy Johnson, and he built that whole thing.
He got Jimmy Johnson because Johnson was his buddy, his drinking buddy from Oklahoma. That was how he got Jimmy Johnson. That's why when he took over ownership of the team, he didn't like the guy that was there, so he got rid of Tom Landry. He was a legend. They weren't playing well, but they brought in Jimmy Johnson because he knew Jimmy Johnson.
Right. But regardless, he has that in his cap. But other than that, and then he brought in Barry Switzer because they were friends, and Barry
That's
Switzer
another one. So I mean,
went whoring and a drinking.
So you have two guys.
He's like, I need a running buddy. Come in here, Barry. Let's go a whoring and a drinking. All right, look. My point is, you're lucky to have Mike McCarthy because the chances of you getting another Mike McCarthy are not good. And that's my point. That the John Harbaughs of the world, the Bill Belichicks of the world, not 73-year-old Bill Belichick, 45, 48-year-old Bill Belichick, 49-year-old Bill Belichick, don't come around very often. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, hockey fans, here's a cool offer. BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is giving existing customers another reason to lace up and hit the ice this season. BetMGM is adding extra excitement to the goals, the checks, the faceoffs, and the breakaways with an NHL odds boost token.
Let's do the email bit.
Hey, first of all, on Toucher and Hardy, let's get down to some business. We've gotten some calls on this. Ben, go ahead.
So I know Jerry's crazy and delusional, but even he's not stupid enough to realize that Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Okay.
Currently.
He was in Dallas, correct?
Yeah, but he hasn't been there for at least a year. They got Brian Schottenheimer now. Don't bring that guy back. All set with that.
Okay.
All right.
And
there you go.
I got
But they wouldn't be able to get him anyway.
I got at least 5 emails telling me the same thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Kellen
Thank you.
Moore,
Thank you,
stupid
Brian.
bird.
Thank you,
He's
Ben.
in Philadelphia.
Thank you, Ben, for clearing up Wallach's huge mistakes. We don't like that. If you want to get at Wallach, you can go to his email. Just go to 985thesportshub.com. All the information is there. You can follow us on the Instagram and Twitter at Toucher and Hardy and at Fred Toucher at Hardy985. Go ahead, Wallach.
Interesting email based on your last conversation that we had about you being alone as you get older. And Justin emails us. It said, Fred will never be alone. Adolfo will move in.
Be Real said that Adam will move in not to keep me company, but out of necessity.
I'm sure you look forward to that
And
as well.
our friend Barry Siegel says that he sees the Golden Girls situation.
Oh, yeah?
Me going down.
Yeah.
As long as there's a Lanai cheesecake, I'm in. But as I turn 50 on Thursday, this is literally the first birthday I've ever had a problem with. I used to look forward to them. And now I don't want it. Now I don't want it. I don't want anything.
Hello, Hardy. Love how you continue to challenge Fred and the Birdman's artificial argument that 75% of people wanted to trade Drake May, therefore Elliott deserves to remain employed. I believe it's on record and again confirmed by the great James Stewart. Yes. That Krafts collaboratively drafted Mac Jones. Are we to believe the Krafts didn't influence the pick? Because I remember the majority of the fan base wanted to keep the pick because they have not had a top 10 pick for decades.
Okay, based on the narrative, sure, all that. But based on the narrative that Belichick didn't make the Mac Jones pick, everyone we talked to that is around the organization every day said that's absolutely not true.
The majority of fans wanted the Patriots to trade up and take Justin Fields or one of the quarterbacks that came into range as they got to 9, 10, and 11 with the Patriots sitting at 15. That's what everyone wanted.
Okay, but you're going to hold up Mac Jones as some kind of a success or that the fans were wrong about?
No. You asked what the majority of fans wanted. The majority
trading
of fans
trading up from 15 is a lot different than trading and not picking third. That's a lot different.
First of all, I never said that it's like I don't think Elliott Wolf should lose his job based on one off season. That was my main point. Is that it's a circus. That you're just firing people after 1 year and you're becoming like the Carolina Panthers. That you're disrupting the organization. So that was my main point. But I don't like that the same people that are saying fired Elliott Wolf are the same people that would have screwed everything up and gotten fired for sure. Because the one thing that would have run him out of here on a rail is if he would have traded with the Giants or with Minnesota, and then Drake May goes to Minnesota and they win 14 games. And you didn't take them, you're fired before the end of the season. That would have been an unmitigated disaster.
Kyle sent me a tweet. Hey, Hardy, I wanted Drake May. I want Wolf fired. Please tell Fred.
Well, then he stands in one of the 25%. I mean, I didn't say no one wanted it. I just said 75% didn't.
I believe, and I've been burned on this before when we've checked the tape, I believe you said, I love how everyone who wants Elliott Wolf fired.
I should have been more specific.
Wanted them to trade out of that pick.
I should have been more specific about my words.
Yes.
I love how the majority of people that want Elliott Wolf fired are the majority of people that wanted them to trade away Drake May.
I love that you love things still at your advanced age and as you stand on the precipice of 50, that you still have the capacity for love.
You know, I've been listening to a lot of Bobby McFerrin and taking it to heart. As I said in the precipice of death. As I reach into that, and
precipice of death, huh?
Now I have to figure out what this whole experiment, this crazy experiment called life is. This is Don't Turn Into Felger. There's a lot of controversy going around on the internet for the 10 people that pay attention about why I was upset at Felger. And we all were. Is because, if you must know, and to end the mystery, it's because he was going on and on about Rich Keefe and his problem with Marchand. And I don't think that you should be doing that during your show. I think that you should not be hyping up the competition if you need to know what I was upset about. I think that's a lesson learned. Don't you agree?
Oh, I agree that's that probably it's not helpful to your coworkers on the midday show.
Yeah, I spent 40 seconds talking about it, and I stand by it. I don't think you should do it. I don't hate him or want anything bad to happen to him. I just don't think you should do that. It actively annoyed me when I heard it. And I like Felger Mazz. I was listening to it. It actively annoyed me that he was saying stand with Keefe throughout the show.
And also, I like Keefe. But I'm not going to make a big thing about it and talk about something that's going on in their show and make it a point to, stand with him.
I like Keefe too, but he works for a competitor.
Right.
And I just think that by now you should know you shouldn't do that. Yeah. I feel a little insulting. If that answers everyone's problem. Felger and Mazz do a great show that I listen to daily. They're extraordinarily talented. Felger is a wonderful man. Every time I've met him, I had issue, as we all did, with the consistent bringing up of a competitor's show. I just don't think you should do that. And I think that let's give a percentage. Most people, I won't give a percentage actually, most people in radio would agree. That is the lesson I've been told. Even when we were going after competition, our direct competition, people would be like, don't mention him, don't give him the credit, da-da-da-da-da. Let alone another show in another day part. That would bother me.
Yeah, that's a radio philosophy too, is if you are going after someone who's doing better than you, might be okay. That's all right. Go ahead and make all the noise you want. But if you're consistently and have been for a long time doing better than the competition, don't even mention them.
And I appreciate the attention to this station. Again, I like that people care. So that's fantastic. Love it or hate it, you care, and that's all that's the best thing about it. So to clear up what Bert Breer texted me at 11 o'clock last night, as I told you, as I lay in bed, Bert Breer said, what's going on with Felger? Why are you pissed at Felger? I'm not pissed at Felger. I thought Felger did something wrong on the air. That's what I should have been more clear and just said it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry you have to deal with these two gaslighting a-holes, Hardy. They make up stats, and when you call them out for their asinine arguments, they turn it around on you. You deserve better. We deserve better. Love, Sam.
There's a lot
which
of
could
that.
be kind of like, just a familiar love, or it could be Samantha, and she could be in love with me. We don't know.
All right. This is, hey, Freddie De Niro. Hey. Felger and Mazz do the same thing every day. That's why I brought up Felger, because it says Felger and Mazz do the same thing every day. They take the minority of fans' opinion and speak to the majority of fans who know as if they all hold the minority opinion. Maybe that's why Felger is king of the trolls. God bless you for them doing it every single GD day. Are you doing that with Elliot Wolf? Just sometimes Patriot fans can be a lot. And, it's a lot, and there's a lot of very strong opinions on the team, and when they disagree with you, they're very vocal, and then they turn around and contradict themselves a season later. And I think that maybe people on this station that do what I just did, because that's what we hear. Like, people don't go, when you say they need to take Drake May, people don't go, yeah, they need to take Drake May. That would be just agreeing with you. There would be no point of it. So, Hardy, you have a point. Maybe everything that I see and Wallach saw while we were on in the morning was people yelling at us for how stupid we are or for them taking Drake May.
Maybe we're still bearing some deep emotional scars from that. You ever think about that?
Take that, stupid. Yeah, you're too stupid to recognize your own emotional scars.
Well,
Be smarter about your emotions.
That's an onion that is very hard to peel. All right, Fred, I haven't even read this yet, but I like the title. Hardy is hard-headed.
Oh,
that is. I like this one too. This guy sounds like he knows who he's talking
Take that,
about.
Dennis the Menace. Fred, I don't know why Hardy is having such trouble with this, other than he sounds like he's a person who can't admit when he's wrong.
Also true.
Last year, I felt like I was going crazy listening to all the talking heads saying, get a receiver and lineman and build around them. Maybe it was the shock jock we want your reaction headline game they were playing, but they definitely saying it. So many callers were against the Drake May pick. I said to my friends at the time to take notes so you can take people to task the next year for being so incredibly wrong.
Keep receipts.
That's right. I remember very long arguments that Michael Penix was better than Drake May. And what do I know about anything? I'm just saying it worked out. Don't. It's actually a good thing for. I don't understand this. It's a positive thing for Patriots
Well,
fans.
this is, and we can really kind of like ignore all the percentages and what people wanted, and forget all of the, the made up statistics that I come up with, you come up with, whatever.
Sure.
How about this? Is drafting Drake May at 3rd enough for you? Forget about the culture and the circus atmosphere. Is that enough for you to say Elliott Wolf did a good enough job to be able to do the job again in this year's draft?
Or you could phrase it this way: did Elliott Wolf do a bad enough job in his one offseason that he deserves to be fired?
Right, and look, that's an argument I think you can have reasonably without us gaslighting each other.
Right.
Personally,
that's what gaslighting means. I'm so confused.
I still don't know what
Go
that
ahead.
means.
No, neither do I.
I don't think it's enough.
Right.
I think that that one selection at Drake May 3rd overall is not enough to if you're presenting the defense for Elliott Wolf to keep his job, and that is your argument. You got to give me more than that.
And start over with
that's
everybody.
Okay, and that's fair. But I will tell you this: if he had not taken Drake May, we wouldn't be having this conversation because Elliott Wolf would not be in the building.
Fair enough.
So the selection of Drake May, if nothing else, has kept Elliott Wolf around, because I can assure you, if he would have traded that pick and Drake May went to Minnesota or New York and had success, he'd be gone. Assure you of that.
Yeah.
Could be.
Even Bayless's wife agrees.
Maybe he ends up sitting longer with another team. And you don't get enough of a look at. We got enough of a look at Drake May this year to know that he can play the position.
But he would have started for the Giants at some point, and he would have started for Minnesota at some point. J.J. McCarthy, you'll recall, got hurt. The plan, it was believed the plan in Minnesota was to start J.J. McCarthy at the beginning of the season. He got hurt. So I think if Minnesota or Giants traded up, he would have played. But, I mean, I don't know for sure, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Since we're being so respectful with one another now. You know? That's
it's getting close to your birthday. I know it means a lot to you.
It doesn't mean a lot to me.
It means so much. It means more to you than it does any grown man I know.
Doesn't it? What? Not liking turning 50 is unique to me?
No, your birthday.
In the past.
You care more about your birthday than any grown man I know. Period. Fact. Not making it up. Not being hyperbolic.
Okay. You have fine. Agreed. But you have to admit, you have to love this year then, because this year I'm not making a big deal of my birthday, in that the big deal is that it's torturing me.
Which is why it might end up being a big deal anyway.
Yeah, but it's a negative, so you got to like that. I don't feel good.
I don't want you.
Doesn't that make you feel better?
It does make me, yes, I do.
If I'm jazzing up my birthday to have a big party, I understand that annoying you.
Yeah.
This is bothering me. It's making me feel bad.
And that I do derive pleasure from that.
Which birthday party was it all those years ago where we
40th.
had the 40th, the mariachi band? That was a long time ago.
The 50th was going to be a sparse affair.
Okay.
There's no party. So know that I'm in pain. That should be enough. I'm not jazzing myself up for a good time. I'm in mental and spiritual anguish.
12's cranking up the pencil sharpener. Be careful.
No, I know we have to break. We'll be back with the sponsored stack in just a moment.
Sports Hub. thinking, what could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
I have a problem being wrong. Is that accurate, do you think?
I think everybody likes to be right? I like to be liked. You like to be right.
That's a yes. Okay.
Well, yeah.
So let's listen to it again. I said it sucked. It got better, but at the beginning I said it was not good. Let's listen now with try and have fresh ears on this, Wallach, or fresh ear.
Fair enough.
Please. Okay.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes.
Okay.
What is that?
It's Robin Zander from Cheap Trick doing the national anthem ahead of the Tampa Bay game.
I'm gonna
picking some dad out of the crowd for a pancake breakfast at a school fundraiser.
Stick with not good.
Okay, so not good is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think terrible enough to be subject to ridicule.
Can I weigh in on this? Because while I don't think it's good, I also agree with Fred that it's not subject to ridicule. And I give Robin credit because in listening to it again, I can tell that he starts it in a key that he realizes it's gonna be out of his range by the time he gets to the end. So then
that is a
keys.
major component in singing the national anthem, not starting it
right.
too
But
high.
the fact that he's a professional and realize, I started this in the wrong key. I need to do a little pitch shift here so that I can carry the rest of this through. He gets points for that.
Or a professional would have started it in the right key.
For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Finish strong. He gets points for that too.
Listen, we're all going to die anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
How about this?
What's it really matter? And no one's going to remember it.
Did you catch this a couple days ago? Xfinity is bumping NESN NBC Sports Boston to a higher price cable tier.
Wait, what? Go say it again.
Xfinity.
Yeah, which I got.
Is bumping NESN and NBC Sports Boston to a higher priced cable tier starting next week. Actually, starting today, January 14th. The shift means a $20 price bump per month in order to watch Celtics games on NBC Sports Boston, plus Bruins and Fleet. What? And come spring, Red Sox.
It's a women's hockey team.
Oh, and Red Sox games on NESN. Xfinity lists the popular and ultimate TV tiers at $60 and $80, respectively.
Jesus.
But that
What's
excludes
the
fees.
$80 one?
The $80 one will get you NESN and NBC Sports Boston.
You know,
Cheaper than NESN 360.
You can't fight City Hall. The great thing about Xfinity is if I'm at the gym and I want to watch any live sporting event, it won't let me on the app. It says I have to be on my home Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're like doing something and you want to watch a game that's not on at the gym,
right?
You gotta.
Well, you gotta do the filter out of home, all that stuff, and scroll through.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell to do that.
Oh, come on, Fred.
I don't know how to do it. I'm old, very old.
There's something else I think we should wait for until tomorrow, though, and that is the top complaints that Boston residents had, according to calls to city services.
Okay.
Leaf blower is going to be high on that list.
Well, all I can tell you is that there is a photo of two rats perched atop garbage bags, which is not just a city problem. I found out, like, there are rats in suburbs. There are rats in, like, rural areas.
Yeah.
Apparently, rats are a bigger
Rats
problem.
are everywhere.
Just not outside of the Tin Tin Buffet, which I saw them that last time I ever visited Tin Tin Buffet and never went back.
If there was a rat in my house, I would squeal like a little girl. And I'm someone who removed a bird and kept it flyable, kept it intact from my ex-wife's house. I went in and grabbed the bird and escorted it to safety very bravely. But
Fly, little bird, fly!
That's right, TT boy. I did do that.
Look at the bird, remember?
Yeah, I do, TT boy. That was great. You were the most athletic of all the porn stars.
Like a bird, migrate.
You were just getting started after your first scene, as you said.
Stay humble.
Well, you were far from humble. But I was, but if I saw a rat in my house, I would like lose my mind. I'd get a hotel room I would really lose my mind. A mouse, I've been in. I've had a mouse, not at my place now. A mouse, I'm not afraid of. It is jarring, but then you can calm down. A big rat, I would lose my mind, and then I'd be afraid of the crap and everything else. That's unnerving. So I sympathize with you if you have a rat problem. A rat worse than a bat. I've even handled bats.
You handled a bat? Really?
I've had to handle bats. I tried with a tennis racket. That's impossible.
Yeah. I know.
I crushed one behind a CD rack. That's how long ago it was.
Shot one with a BB gun in college. It perched on my bookshelf in my room.
It's not a bad. Oh. Did it kill it?
I took several shots. There were two of us outside the door. One went low, one went high.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If you shoot something with a BB gun, it's not necessarily going down.
No.
You could just anger the beast. That's the problem.
Thank you, Doris.
You could anger the beast. A worthy opponent.
It's been too long.
I will follow the trail of blood. I will identify it by taste, not by vision.
Thank you, Artie.
Oh, you wildebeest. Aha. The spirit of the chase. I tip doth cap to thine. Okay, that'll do it for us. Everyone have a great day. Bye.